Yes. Well, let's have Parsa say that then.
Perfect.
And Parsa find out we're gonna need to make one more space for Becky.
Okay, looks like one more seat's right there. Okay.
Cover that? Yep.
As we're going to start.
Yes.
Okay. Again, for the record, Marissa Hannan, Chair of the Youth Development Council, really appreciate folks being here, joining our meeting today. And I also wanted to give a huge shout out to the team at YDO. So Brian, Melissa, and team for organizing today's meeting, the materials and so forth. Thank you to Jen Hannan from Sequoia Falls Academy.
Yes, Jen over there.
Hi, Jen. Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for
Jen.
hosting.
That's not Jen. That's Becky.
Oh, yeah, right over there. And then there's Bethany. And then we also wanted to welcome a guest here today. So welcome Wendy Gibson from LFO, the Legislative Fiscal Office. And then welcome to our new council members who will officially vote in. So Adrian, Bethany, and I believe that Stefan is online, right? Excellent, wonderful. Thank you so much. So with that, let's go ahead and officially call the meeting to order at 10:10 a.m. Melissa, will you call the roll?
Yes. Adrian Anderson.
Here.
San Ojero.
Here.
Stefan Almack.
Here.
Daniela Avila. Carissa Chanrani.
Here.
Andrew Copeland. Bobby Devine.
Here.
Yoselin de la Garza Hernandez Lopez. Jenny Glass. Adam Henning.
Here.
Jeff Justison.
Here.
Nate Latanzio.
Here.
Kim Lett. Andy Leonard.
Here.
Christina McMahon. Jeff Parker. Savannah Relatas. I think Savannah's online. Yep, Savannah's online for the record. Alex Robinson. Sandra Santos. Hannah Schroeder.
Here.
Janelle Theobald. Bethany Trainer.
Here.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'll do the count for quorum later.
Okay, thank you so much. So a couple of reminders for our meeting today on June 11th. Say your name when you start speaking. So again, for the record, Parisa Chanrami. This meeting is being recorded and is a formal advisory meeting of the state. If you're a member of the public and you'd like to provide public comment, there's a public comment section at the end of this agenda and near the end of the meeting, and members of the public have up to 3 minutes to speak per person. If you'd like to comment, please let Melissa Gallardo know. So if you're here in person or if you're online through Zoom, just send her a private chat message so that she's aware that you'd like to speak. And then with that, I'm going to be passing it to Brian to review the agenda.
Thanks so much again, Brian Duttman, for the record, Youth Development Oregon Director. Just appreciate everybody taking the time to drive down or join us online. And again, yeah, thanks to Melissa and Paul and also Tanasia and Joy and others, right, who helped really make all the little details happen. Agenda review. So you have hopefully it electronically in your email. We have a few extra copies here behind me if you want something hard copy. We have a full meeting, but you know, Melissa and I were talking this morning. It's not. I think we'll be able to run through some things pretty quickly. Just obviously several updates, some votes here at the beginning that we kind of have front loaded. How are we doing on quorum? What's that?
We are at quorum.
At quorum.
12.
12 votes, good. So I think 11 is quorum.
4 votes scheduled.
4 votes scheduled. Hang in. Don't anybody leave. I'll start us off with a quick director's update. Then we'll jump to juvenile justice and our state advisory group update. Just as a reminder, particularly for our newer folks, the Youth Development Council also doubles as the state's advisory group, which is a federal designation and federal requirement because we have funding from Title II from the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention and are responsible for meeting several provisions of the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Act. So keep in mind that when you hear state advisory group, that the YDC has this function in that regard as well. A quick grants update. We'll take a little break. Hopefully time will allow around 11:30. We'll have a data presentation that I know staff have been working really hard on. And so we'll also have that happen simultaneously with lunch. We are here at Sequoia Falls Academy. Really appreciate that. So right after we hear that presentation, have an eat. We'll do a grantee presentation. I understand we have 2 students who will be here a little bit later to talk about their experience here at Sequoia Falls. And of course, Jen will give an overview of the program. We'll do a quick strategic plan update, committee updates after that, time for public comment. I'll try to do a roundup of any actions, or Paras and I will identify any follow-up actions and next steps. And then we'll adjourn by 2 p.m. this afternoon, get you back to wherever you need to go on a Thursday. So that's the agenda. Any questions or comments on the agenda? Okay, hearing none. Parsa, should I keep going?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Brian.
So on to director's update. Again, Brian Detman, for the record, really excited to have 3 new council members here. One of whom is on the screen and has a graduation ceremony or activities today. So Stefan, we appreciate your being here. We also have Adrian Anderson and Bethany Tramer. I will ask them to do quick introductions, just like, hey, I work at XYZ, my role is this. I'm excited to be on the council because, but we'll have Stefan go first because I know Stefan needs to roll. So Stefan will go to you first, come to Adrian, and then over to Bethany. Stefan, say hi, and then we'll let you get out of here.
Yeah, thanks. And Stefan Almack, apologies that I can't be there in person. We have senior breakfast happening, which rolls right into senior or graduation rehearsal. So big day here. But look forward to joining everybody. And here being Calapooya High School, I've been here for about 14 years as principal. It's an alt-ed high school in the Bethel School District. I'm excited to be on the board. I worked with Jeff Parker in the 1900s. I think he was my crew boss, building bridges in the woods. And so I've continued to sort of work alongside him in this work, trying to find and develop programs for youth. We have some pretty exciting programs here in Bethel that I've been a part of creating, and excited to learn about other things happening in the state and share whatever perspectives I can, having worked in alt-ed for the last few decades.
Thanks, Stefan. We'll turn it to Adrian Anderson. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Adrian Anderson. I currently work for the Oregon School Boards Association. I've been there for 2 years. Prior to that, I was at the District Attorney's Office in the Juvenile department. So I'm really excited to kind of, get to be on this council and see where my experience in the juvenile justice space kind of overlaps with my experience in the education space. Nice to meet you.
Thanks, Adrian. And to Bethany.
My name is Bethany Tramer. I'm the director for the Oregon Alliance of Boys and Girls Clubs. I've been there for 2 years, and prior to that, a decade with the After School Network. So I come from expanded learning, informal, also a parent of 3 boys who are finishing their school year today. So I'm excited to be a part of this work, since I remember watching some of the first YDC meetings a decade ago, at least, to be here, I guess, to be part of this.
Thanks, Bethany. Welcome, all of you. All right, I'm going to move us forward. One of the things that we're going to do now involves a vote, and it has a couple different parts, and my hope is that we do this all together. We have some leadership announcements / adjustments, and then we're going to talk about some committee members. Melissa and I were looking at our bylaws, which we think we need to spend some more time in a future work group on, but the committee members are supposed to be voted on by the council. I'm not sure if we go forward, like whether that makes all the sense in the world, but it's in the bylaws. we've had several people over the past months and probably year kind of come in and out of some of our committees. And so we want to vote on them, but I also see this as just an opportunity like to acknowledge like some really outstanding contributions and participation by various folks from around the state in some of our committee work. So I'll name some folks and then ask for a kind of combined vote and then do a couple of other quick announcements. So first, the thing I kind of skipped over is, as you know, as I think you all know, Taras is our current chair and will serve as chair through the end of the calendar year. So for our September meeting, our November retreat, and our December meeting. And then the chair's duties are a year long. We appreciate your leadership. We'll have you for a few more meetings, but we also, you may recall in our last meeting, Tabidi Lewis, who was our vice chair, was coming right to the end of his 2-term period anyway, but also resigned his position. He's busy with stuff. He's been an outstanding vice chair, outstanding YDC member. He just needed to kind of step away. He wasn't going to be as engaged as he's kind of finishing on his term. So as Paras and I, and we've had conversations, we've determined that we'd like to appoint or name Zan Ojiro, who's here, as our vice chair, and then Zan will take over as chair in 2027. And we've got approval by the governor's appointments people to have Zan essentially serve a year more in her YDC role. She's also at the end of her 4-year terms, but they're fine with that. I think it makes sense. Zan's been a long time and committed member of the council. And so I'm excited to have her serve as vice chair for the next few months or several months, and then come in as chair in 2027. As somebody again who's if you don't know her, you will know her more. So I'm not saying make a motion yet, but we'll need to take a motion on Zan being vice chair. And just to group these things together, I just want to name a few folks who kind of come into some of our committee work, because again, it's been great to have more voices and more people engaged. So Joshua Davis Johnson has been involved and engaged with our youth committee. Lillian Miller has also been engaged and involved with our youth committee. On the Juvenile Justice Committee, Nella Hogberg and Caroline Meyer from the Oregon Judicial Department and the Juvenile Delinquency Improvement Program have been involved. The Honorable Charles Koklax, a judge, I believe from the Ashland area, has been involved with our Juvenile Justice Committee. Caitlin Edgar, a policy person at the Oregon Youth Authority, is involved with that Juvenile Justice Committee. And Annette Magicotami has also been involved with the Juvenile Justice Committee, and Annette has just recently applied to be on the council. So we'll move with that, her candidacy as soon as we can. And also Molly Rogers, who was on the council, chaired the Juvenile Justice Committee before Jeff Jefferson, has been and will continue to remain involved with our Juvenile Justice Committee. So that's a bunch of names. Sorry to throw all that at you, but maybe I'll turn it to Parasa to ask for a vote. But all of those folks are engaged with our work, and it's great to have that kind of representation from various different perspectives and experiences. So ideally, we make some kind of motion to have Zan as vice chair, and then to have those folks continue on as committee members. Do you want to say it more officially than I just did?
So just to make sure that we're tracking this vote, we're batching these appointments. So Zan to the vice chair position, Joshua and Leanne to the youth committee, and Nella Carolyn to Juvenile Justice Committee. Include, and then in addition to that, Charles, Caitlin, Annette, and Molly Rogers, all to the Juvenile Justice Committee. Correct. Okay. All right. Is there a motion?
So moved. I don't know if I can repeat all the same.
As stated by the chair.
Yes, please. As stated by the chair.
Okay, Jeff Justin makes the motion. Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Hannah
Thanks, Hannah.
Schroeder seconds the motion.
Sorry, this is Hannah Schroeder.
Hannah Schroeder, thank you for saying your name. Okay, and then Melissa, will you call the, any questions or discussion?
Is there anything online? I was just asking, I was checking questions.
No questions in the room? And no questions online. Melissa, will you call the roll, please?
Yes. Adrian Anderson,
Yes.
Zan Ogeron.
Aye.
Stefan Omar,
Aye.
Daniela Avila,
Aye.
There we go.
thanks Daniela, Parsa Chan Rami,
Aye.
Andrew Copeland, Bobby Devine,
Aye.
Yoselin de la Garza Hernandez Lopez, Jenny Glass, Adam Henning,
Aye.
Jeff Justison.
Adams
Nope.
ex officio.
Oh, that's right, sorry.
Yeah. But still, you
Thank
you
you
know.
for reminding me.
Yeah. Aye is.
Jeff Justison,
Aye.
Nate Latanzio.
Aye.
Kim Lay, Andy Leonard,
Aye.
Christina McMahon, Jeff Parker, Savannah Relatus.
Aye, sorry.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Savannah. Alex Robinson, Hannah Schroeder,
Aye.
Janelle Theobald, and Bethany Tramer.
Aye.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Okay. Thank you.
Excellent. Motion passes.
Wait, okay, a couple other quick announcements. I said it earlier, but I'll just say it again. Melissa and I have been looking at our bylaws. Technically, they're called, it's in a document called the Policy and Procedure Manual. It's like 35 or 40 pages. And it gives, I don't, it doesn't keep me up at night, to be clear, but it does sometimes give me headaches when I have to remember, or Melissa has to remember all the details. So we brought to the cord brought to the strategy committee that we need to go in and look at and refine. There's some good tools that the state has to, for the record, sorry, Brian Dutman. So we're recommending that a work group be formed to work on the bylaws. So if you have interest in working on bylaws, they're exciting. I didn't sell them very well. Maybe I should say you will make our lives better. And frankly, we know, I don't know, probably 80-90% of the things that we think that need to change. And hopefully if you help us identify or come up with better ideas for some of the other stuff that we just aren't thinking of, please be in touch with me or Melissa. I'm not going to make you raise your hands right now, but know that you will get an ask for that following this meeting. The last thing I'll say is, and maybe for some of those who are been involved for a while, but our ex officio members, we have two. Sandra Santos is a leader at Oregon Youth Authority. Sandra's not here today, not in person and not online, but Caitlin, I see Caitlin shaking her head. Sandra often is able to join us, but in her place today is Caitlin Edgar, who also serves on the Juvenile Justice Committee. So Caitlin, thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. So we have an OIA ex officio person and then an Oregon Department of Education person. Up till this point, it has been Sam Coe, who is here in person. Hello, Sam. And I just want to say a real deep and sincere thank you to Sam for his years of service with us and just always being an amazing and fantastic resource, being present, asking amazing and great questions, serving on evaluation committees. Like Sam has been one of our most amazing resources I know, both prior to my time and in my last 5 years. Sam's not going away from ODE. He's got other facilities and $50 million or something to manage or spend. But Sam, many thanks for your partnership I'll give you the floor to say a couple things after I'm done talking. But I'll just, before I turn it over, I just want to introduce Adam Henning. Adam also works for the Oregon Department of Education. He will be taking on the ex officio role for Sam, and working on JDEP YSAP. JDEP is the Juvenile Detention Education Programs that are usually are based in detention facilities. And I think he also has responsibilities for the Youth Correctional Facility Education Programs, or YSAP programs, which are at our state state youth correctional facilities like McLaren, which is not too far from here. So Sam and Adam, Sam, to you first. Any words that you want to share, and then we'll turn it over to Adam to say hello.
It's been a great pleasure being on this council from its different iterations, from the Oregon Commission of Children and Families since here, because I've been on the council or involved with it since 2008. So it's been a while. And one of the things was one of our other projects that I really enjoyed was the governor's DMC, disproportionate minority contact summit that we used to work on and so forth. That we used to have a whole bunch of people and so forth. So I do have to say I've reviewed grants for ages, and it's the work that Abraham and the YDO team has done to simplify it, has to make it so easy for reviewers. I have to applaud the YDO staff. It's from the earlier days. Oh my gosh. We used to get paper. It was so much easier. So thank you, and it's been a pleasure. And as Brian said, I'm still around, and it's not $50 million. So, you know. I mentioned it was they will need some limitation and some budget authority to expand the long-term care treatment programs, and that was sorely needed. And Carasa knows over the years we've had issues, and so forth. So finally we're able to do that. So we're for this upcoming school year, I'm onboarding like 11 or 12 sites, new sites. So that's why I'm working on that. So then Adam was gracious to accept some of my responsibilities, because I was both the county juvenile detention and long-term care treatment now, and then so to unload some of my burden onto Adam, and he was very gracious to agree to that.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Adam, you want to say?
Hi, everybody. I'm Adam Henning. Sam's been mentoring me for almost 10 years now, and he still has more mentoring to do. My primary role when I came to Department of Ed was working with OYA, their education programs. That's my history. I've scary enough, almost 30 years I've been working with juvenile corrections education programs between the state of Arizona and Oregon now. I have other things that I have to do for ODE. I work actually in the hospital education programs as well. But looking forward to seeing how I can help the council and what I can benefit from learning and doing things as well, and just looking forward to it.
Cool. Thank you both.
Yeah.
All right.
Want to say something?
Yeah. Go
Okay, then do you want me to move to the next one? Okay, wonderful. I wanted to echo the thanks for Sam. I'm getting close to rounding off my final term at the council here, and I've really appreciated your thought partnership in thinking how things could be better aligned, and improving systems and bringing in that historical perspective on the council as an ex officio member. So thank you again for your service since 2008, and I know you won't be a stranger, and I'm so glad that you're going to be able to continue to support Adam in filling the ex officio role. So we're excited to work with you, Adam. And then last but not least, thank you for all the partners who are volunteering on the different committees. Thank you to Zan for serving as our next vice chair. And then thank you to the new council members for joining today. So with that, I'm looking at the agenda. The next piece that we have here is a state advisory group update, as well as an update from the Juvenile Justice Committee. So I'm going to pass it to Anya and Jeff.
Oh, thank you, Carasa. The record, Anya, Associate Director of Youth Development, Oregon. So we have 4 items, I believe. under the State Advisory Group Juvenile Justice Committee update. So but before we get to item number one, for those council members who are newer here, the Youth Development Council has a responsibility of a state advisory group for the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, U.S. Department of Justice. And there are multiple responsibilities that come with that. The Juvenile Justice Committee serves as a brain for that work. And then the information is shared with the Council for general vote. So that's the structure of it. We also have state responsibilities, which are also outlined in statute. And that's around juvenile detention guidelines. That work has been completed finally. It took us about 2 years to come up with the current edition, so new council members don't need to worry about that for another 5 years. That's how the term for the renewal. But so we also have standard detention application process review and approval. So usually standard detention, it's a special type of programming. It's under statute. A county that operates a detention facility may apply to the council with an application for a 30-day extended detention program. Not every detention has a program as such, but some do. And currently we have an application from Douglas County that we will review, and then we'll have a vote. And then when we get to the next thing, I'll talk about other duties of the council. But for now, so, and I know Melissa shared with you, you should have a review summary. We have 90 days since the application is submitted to review and approve. So that's, we met this timeline. So the application was submitted on April 8th. We had multiple volunteers from the Juvenile Justice Committee to be reviewers, but unfortunately, we had such a tight schedule for a site visit that only few were able to make it, but thank you those who volunteered. Anyway, so the actual review team was Jeff, Justison, Sam Cook. I cannot thank you, Sam, enough, honestly, for all this work since 2008. I think we started working on the Governor Summit. That's how it all started. But I know where to find you, so. And Adam, now you're gonna be new Sam. Because without Sam or you, we cannot process any of the standard detention application. Because the education is such an important factor, and without one of you there, it just like the council would be not able to make that decision, right? So Sam was there. Lawrence did not participate in the site visit, but he's been going back and forth with Douglas County and is going to be offering technical assistance. And for those of you new to the council, Lawrence is the racial and ethnic disparities coordinator with YDO. So we had a site visit of May 22nd. Thank you for those who participated. We had Wendy Lang, who is the juvenile department director, and Dan Carr, who is the detention manager, an old friend of Jeff. So, and the program itself, they renamed it Douglas County Focus 30 Extended Detention Program, and it's designed to address issues of youth offenders who need a heightened level of intervention and supervision to stabilize behavior. Program was also used as a sanction for revocation of probation by the court. In order to be placed in a 30-day detention program, it has to be court order. It's a judge's decision. It's not juvenile department's decision or detention decision who gets to be there. So you have a general description, but I don't want to spend too much time reading what you hopefully have read. But I do want to ask council members who were part of the review to share your experience and either recommend the program for approval, which I believe that's what's going to happen. But before we do that, Sam, Jeff, Sam, any feedback?
Okay, Jeff Justison, council member and Juvenile Justice Committee Chair. Just real quick, one thing that I think might help people get some context on extended detention is by statute in Oregon, a youth can only be placed in a detention facility, local detention facility, or up to 8 days as part of a sentence. Now, sometimes they're longer pending court and that sort of thing. But the statute also allows for up to 30 days if you meet certain criteria. Those are the criteria that we're considering. And basically, those criteria are you have to have some sort of program that's addressing some of the issues that may have brought the youth there. And so just as a former detention manager and at Norport, we had extended detention. I believe some of the stuff that Douglas County is doing, I actually really liked some of the stuff and would have stolen it had I been still at my facility. But they work on skill building with the youth. They work on some empowerment groups, some behavior mod workbooks, those sorts of things. But they're also doing a really good job of preparing the youth for transition back into the community. They're getting doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, eye appointments. Well, the youth is, and I don't want to offend anybody, but it's the inside joke is always they're a captive audience, right? So you have you have them there and you get some of this done. And they're also requiring the probation officer for the youth, the juvenile court counselor, to be involved heavily with the planning and the aftercare. And that's a really important piece as well. So it's not just that youth disappearing for 30 days off this person's workload so they don't have to do any work. They're involved in the activity, the activities that are going on in the facility. And then the other piece is this isn't just we're going to hold them here while we're trying to come up with a better long-term plan. These are youth that the plan is they're going to be returned to the community. And so it's really kind of its own program, not designed to be a holding area. I think so. Those are some of the things I took out of it, and just some observations. Their detention population was really low, so they were able to do. We were able to not sit in on, but just kind of observe from afar some of the groups happening and some of the work that's happening. And with a low detention population, they're actually able to have kids that maybe aren't ordered to this particular program involved with the groups. So that's just some background. I was pleased with some of the stuff they're doing, pleased with the facility. I've known their detention manager, Dan Carr, for a long time, but I think it's a good program. So I'd recommend it's that we approve the program.
Zan Ojiro for the record. I was also impressed by the Douglas County Focus 30 Extended Detention Program. Wendy Lang, the Juvenile Department Director, is new to Douglas County, and she has brought in, I think, a lot of new ideas and has given a real refresh to the program, which seemed to be fully embraced by all the staff that we met, particularly Dan Park, and then the educational lead who was there, also very integral part of the program. Right now, the program is serving primarily Douglas County youth, but as they get their feet fully under them and they're recertified, they are planning to accept Coosa Prairie County youth as well, because they don't have an extended detention program there. And I think that will that'll up the population a bit. I was very impressed by the again, that fully wraparound service that they were describing. There were a couple of great success stories that they talked about, and the whole warm handoff emphasis and keeping the probation officers involved during that whole 30-day period, and family, of course. So the site looks like pretty much any other detention facility around the state. It feels jail-like, which is of course not necessarily conducive to learning, but staff are very good at addressing these youth as individuals and supporting them in their needs and getting them to be successful as they move forward in life. So I also strongly endorse the approval of the Douglas County Extended Detention Program.
And as Jeff mentioned, detention or is only for, is there for like 8 days, and the 30-day detention allows for programming and treatment, because generally when the kid comes in the first 2 to 3 days, they're either detoxing or they're getting familiar with the situation and they're just not ready for certain things. So the 30-day extended detention allows an opportunity for a student or youth to receive, treatment and so forth. And the curriculum that Douglas County provided part of their application meets that, and then that's where I was elected for it. And then something that they revised in the application was the way they written it, there were like 3 conditions to be there, but then I asked that all 3 conditions have to be met. And the reason why was I didn't want their extended detention to be placeholder for kids that they didn't have a less secure placement for. So that was one of the conditions. Like I didn't want the extended detention to be default or like oh, we can't find a place for it, let's just stick them in here. No, that is not, as Zan mentioned, county detention is not the best environment for our youth when they don't need to be there, for safety and security sake. So, and then Douglas County, they were receptive to changing their application and their focus were for a student to or youth to be there, all 3 conditions, not one, either 1, 2, or 3, all 3. And it would not be a default location, like just in case if they can't find another location. And of note, separated by a door and then separated by sight and sound was their female residential program that we walked through, and then those and I think they did a good job, and that area was a lot more conducive to the residential females. It was a lot more inviting. So, but that is separated by sight and sound, so that we also got to tour that part of the facility too. So, and then on the footnote, they will be a new LTCT site moving forward, It's the horizons. Long-term care treatment, I'm sorry, long-term care treatment is for eligible day and eligible residential facilities that have a contract with the state agency for the placement of students. And so it's a less restrictive environment from county detention or Oregon Youth Authority, but many of our students have come from detention or from as Bobby knows, he has a residential program too. It's a step down from detention or OIA and so forth. So, and then similar to Jeff and Zan, I recommend that we approve their extended detention.
Thank you so much, Anya, and to the council members who have shared their insights from the visit to the program in Douglas County. So with that, is there a motion on the table to request for extended detention program review for Douglas County?
I will move approval of the Douglas County Extended Detention Program.
Dan, moves the motion. Is there a second?
This is Daniela Avila. I second.
Sorry, Poppy.
Daniela got in there.
Got the second. Any discussion from the council?
I just had a question, and this I might have
Go
missed
ahead,
it
Adrian.
if it was said, Adrian Anderson, sorry, might have missed it if it was said, but about how many youth are, I guess, eligible or participating in this?
For the record, Jeff Justison, I don't think they're going to limit how many youth can go through. But given their population, and this is just experience, not data they've shared with me, that I'm guessing that they would be looking at hopefully 2 or 3 at a time in the program. And with room, the way they're set up, they could expand more. So serving, I'm guessing they're hoping to serve. I don't know if it didn't really say in the application, but I'm guessing they're hoping to serve, 20 to 25 youth in a year, potentially more if there's those other counties get involved. Yes, and again, that's just a guess.
Well, I'm looking at their application, Director Anya Sikina. So this is a 24-bed detention facility, and they're currently staffed for 12 beds. So 4 beds will be allocated to the extended program, but it doesn't mean that there will be 4 use at any given time. That's the maximum. That's the capacity doesn't go any higher.
And sample from, and the data.
Speak up, Sam. Everybody speak up a little
I'm
bit.
sorry. And the data we visited, there were 0 detention kids and there were 2 female extended detention kids. So.
There was one of each.
Oh, one of each? Oh, one of each, I'm sorry. One of each. So, and their average daily membership is about 4 to 3 kids. They don't have a lot of kids throughout the year. So when he says 25, it's 25 kids cycled in the entire day. Great.
Any questions or comments online?
Nope, and let's see, this is Melissa Blair for the record. No comments online, thank you.
And I have been doing a horrible job at saying my name for the record, so for the record, so with that, seeing no other questions or discussion, Melissa, will you call the roll?
Yes, Adrian Anderson.
Aye.
Zan Ogeroy.
Aye.
Stefan Almack. Daniela Avila.
Aye.
Parsa Chanrami.
Aye.
Andrew Copeland. Bobby Devine.
Aye.
Yoselin De La Garza Hernandez Lopez. Jenny Glass. Jeff Justison.
Aye.
Nate Latanzio.
Abstain.
Kim Lett. Andy Leonard.
Aye.
Christina McMahon. Jeff Parker. Savannah Relatos. Savannah's on the line, but muted.
Aye.
Thank you, Savannah. Alex Robinson. Hannah Schroeder.
Aye.
Janelle Theobald. Bethany Tremer.
Aye.
Great. That is only 10 aye votes, and that does not pass quorum.
We have 11 people vote.
I heard Nate Latanzio pass, is that right?
No, who said abstain?
See.
Abstain, okay. Right, so I didn't count his, so.
I'll
Okay,
change
11.
mine to aye.
Okay, thanks, Nate.
Thanks, Nate.
Okay, thank you, Zan.
Okay.
Okay,
Happy either way, Nate.
Yeah.
That's fine.
thank you.
Thank you. So for the Parsa Chanrami, for the record, the motion passes to request an extended detention program review for Douglas.
Not with you.
Or just approve the program.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, all right. The Hood River Juvenile Crime Prevention Plan Revision. Anya?
Thank you, Parasa. Of the record, Anya Sikina. Another responsibility that the Youth Development Council has within the state portion of the responsibilities is approval of juvenile crime prevention plans and funding that is associated with it. Every 2 years, each county and each tribe applies to the council to receive the funding. The funding is allocated through population-based formula, and there are smaller counties receive minimum grant allocation, which is currently $75,000. The same amount goes to each of the federally recognized tribes. If a county or a tribe decides to make some significant changes to the plans that have been approved prior to the start of the biennium, they have to request an approval from the council. So that's why it comes to you to make this decision. So and we also shared with you the application itself. Basically what Hood River County is requesting, they currently and previously have been funding a community-based organization next door with the juvenile crime prevention funding. But given the change in financial situation in the county, they're no longer able to support that program. So they're requesting that as of July 1 this year, they will be using the funding to support a bilingual staff position within the juvenile department. And letter also states that about 75% of youth population in whichever county are Hispanic. So having a physician with a bilingual person working with the youth and families would be significant help in services provision. So that's basically what they're requesting.
Any, Parsa Chairman, for the record, any brief questions for Anya? Or I call for a motion?
I had a question.
Go ahead, Sam.
So it sounds like they're supplanting, like, are these funds supposed to only be for supplement, or could they use like supplement?
They're just changing who received the funding. So they're no longer like
Right.
subcontracting, but they're keeping the money within the juvenile department, but funding a different position. So it is a new position.
So that's allowed,
Mhm.
because these are not federal funds, right?
No, those are state general
Okay.
fund.
For the record, my name is Bethany Kramer. I have a question. Was there any discussion or more information about whether the funding that was gonna go to the next door was for a person or for other services? Like, are they switching? So they're not just switching that the next door was providing similar services and now they want it to be a county position?
No, next door was providing a different type of services. Could look up their old plan in a moment. So they're requesting a total change.
So they won't be working with
Next door,
door any
no,
longer?
no. Well, they will not with these fundings. Yeah, because I understand next door is quite a established community partner in Hood River, and they receive multiple funding from other sources. I think they receive some of our funds as well that are.
Next door is also in Moscow County.
Yeah.
Sorry, for the record,
Bethany?
yeah. Do they already have this person ready to start the bilingual bicultural?
That I don't know. It was not part of the application, but they want to start this new service as of July 1, so by July 1 they should have that.
For the record, Jeff Justice, and those are actually great questions, because that I don't know the answer to, and probably could have easier than most, just made a call and asked, but yeah, the questions about, I don't know if it's a new position or if it's changing the funding to a current position. I know that historically they've had someone in the office that was bilingual, but maybe not a juvenile counselor. It might have been a staff support person. So I'm not sure about that, and I'm not sure. Again, of the question of what Nextdoor was specifically providing. Those are good questions.
For the record, Bobby Devine, was there mention that this would be their plan moving forward for funding for the JCP program?
So the JCP funds time span is a biennium. Every 2 years, each content tribe will apply for the next biennium, so they can come up with a completely different plan, or they can continue the same that, but they will still need to meet all the specifications. It has to be, if it's an evidence-based program, who will be providing services, who will be doing JCP assessments, because those are all required components of the plan. I'm just looking for what they currently fund was.
And this is
Bobby Devine for the record. I just wanted to mention that if this is a new position, then obviously would want this to continue as far as the plan for JCP funding. So this person isn't just hired on for 1 year and then no longer has a position based off of the funding.
Yeah, Ms. Brian, record, I was gonna note, maybe if it's new, and we could ask them. They're probably waiting for approval.
Yeah.
Before they hire. But if it's an existing position and this is a sort of, moving funds around. But I don't know the answer to that, but. Anya.
So, we'll get asked about the position, but I just found the description of services that are currently funded. So it's a youth engagement program which is focused on creating meaningful relationship and connections between youth and their communities through active service. Additionally, the goal is to expand and strengthen networks and support systems for youth that foster their educational and vocational skills.
That's the next door program.
Yeah, that's what the next door is doing.
Any other clarifying questions online before I call for a motion?
Melissa Gallardo, nope, there are no questions or raised hands online at this time.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Someone like to call a motion?
Can I ask one more question first? Zan Oshiro for the record. As I recall, the Juvenile Justice Committee did recommend this to the full council for approval.
We didn't have a meeting prior to the council, so the Juvenile Justice Committee didn't have an opportunity to review it as a separate agenda. So it has not been previously reviewed by the Juvenile Justice Committee. So Juvenile Justice Committee may act as council representatives. The timing wasn't right.
Timing is really tight given the start of the fiscal year, July 1. Yeah. Well, even though we do have some questions, for the sake of continuity and service to the youth, I would recommend that we approve the JCP plan revision for Hood River.
With that motion, is there a second?
Bethany Trimmer for the record. I don't know if I can do this. Can I amend your motion to motion approval after questions have been clarified to share back with the Juvenile Justice Committee?
Yeah, now Joe accepts that amendment.
Do you want to restate it?
I move that we approve the Hood River JCP plan revision subject to answers to the questions that have been raised by council members.
Okay, with the amended motion on the table, is there a second?
Bethany Trimmer, I will second.
A second the amended motion, okay. Any final discussion?
This is Brian Detman for the record, just to be clear, so approve. Ask questions, bring those to the Juvenile Justice Committee, bring answers to the committee, and then maybe bring those answers back to the council in September? No, Zan.
What I'm recommending is that we approve this plan revision subject to, I think this is what we're getting at, Bethany, subject to having those questions answered about this not supplanting or what was the concern? That it's not just using these funds to cover a current staff person in the program in Hood River County.
And we will have a Juvenile Justice Committee meeting in a week. On June 24th.
Jeff Justice, for the record. I might recommend, however, that we table this. I can answer this with a phone call probably, and we could have that answer today. And then maybe people, because I think right now we kind of answered the question about what the change is. It's just changing from some specific services at next door to an in-house person. So the question for the group really is this creating a new position or is it just funding a current position? If that's the answer the group wants, I can answer that probably with the phone call and we can bring this back up in 15 minutes after the next part of the agenda. But that's just if that's what the group would like.
I will withdraw my motion. Subject to the proposal by council member Jeff Justice to
make some calls.
Yeah, just a quick process question. Will we have enough for quorum if we move the vote back?
if it's right after Nate's.
I think so. I think that we will.
Okay. All right, so for now, we're going to table the motion. Councilmember Jeff Justinson will be making a phone call so that we have that information before revisiting the motion. Okay,
Yeah, if that's as soon as we're done with this juvenile justice piece, I'll step out and make the phone call.
okay.
Just, Brian Detman, we'll need you for another vote in about 15 minutes.
Okay.
It'll take you 5 minutes.
They take less, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is Melissa Glutter for the record online. Councilmember Nate Latanzio chimed in his support for tabling it for now.
Okay.
Thank you again. So next we have, do we want to just do the quick compliance? Okay. Compliance audit update.
Oh,
And then Hilton.
and for the record, Anya Sakino. We discussed it at the early of meeting 3 months ago that we were, as a state, were subject to compliance monitoring review, also known as an audit, by the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. The audit happened in February. Since that time, we received a letter from the YDC stating several findings. Overall, it was a positive review of our compliance monitoring system. But there are 3 issues that need to be resolved. One of them, one finding, and I believe the audit letter was shared with all of you, so those of you who are more interested in this opportunity to read it in detail. But the first finding was internal to us as an agency. We needed to make some revisions in our compliance monitoring manual, basically updating the language to make sure it's consistent with federal definition, our state definitions. And that has been done. Lindsay completed the revisions. 2 others are concerning the court holding facility in Clackamas County. One finding is regarding the building is not structured to sustain sight and sound separation. It's unfortunate that was a brand new, impressive building, but when they were built it, they did not somehow consider the federal regulations nor consulted the juvenile department in the process. So what we're dealing with is post factum that something needs to change. And one findings is regarding sight and sound violation, which we're trying to fix with Clackamas County. And I must say they are cooperative after initial surprise. We've been able to work with them on trying to mitigate the issue. So for the sight and sound, the law requires that there will be no sight and sound visual or through the audio contact between youth in custody and adults in custody. The way the facility is built, when youth are being brought in through the Sally port, the first thing you see is 4 adult holding cells with big windows. So if there is a adult sitting there, there's a full view. So what we recommended to Clackamas County and what they've already done to install shields on those windows. So when youth is being brought in, if there are adults in those cells, they will be closed there. And we have used a similar approach in Yamhill County 10 years ago after the early audit, and we took them back there this time and that worked. So just as long as there are shields, that there is no fight separation. That's hopefully that will resolve an issue, but we also need the policy, which will clearly state how youth are being processed once brought into the facility. So we're waiting for Clackamas County to send a copy of that policy to us. And the 3rd one is the most challenging one. The 3rd finding is jail removal. So adjudicated youth may not be brought into jail. But again, the way the building it's designed and built, once the exception, so there's a 6-hour exception when youth are being brought to a court hearing. However, it does not apply to youth who have been adjudicated. So you bring a kid to a hearing, and if the judge rules it is adjudicated, they cannot bring them back into the same place they came in from because now they're in jail. So that short period of time is the big issue. And the way the building was built, there's very challenging to find any other way out, literally, other than parading the kid their shackles through the front door, which is not a good thing, not for the kid, not for anyone. So they're trying to fix that situation, either by timing it out, so time adjudication happens, there will be no adults in those holding cells at all. We do not have a policy from Clackamas about that yet, and time is kind of running out because we have to respond by June 22nd. So I'm drafting a response. Yeah, so we have 2 pieces in place, kind of, but this last one is still not clear how they're going to be addressing it, and we're waiting on the actual policies. But that's all I know right now. Hopefully by the next Juvenile Justice Committee meeting on June 24th. Well, the letter will be completed and sent, but whether it will have the attachments of those policies by clock, that I cannot guarantee you. But Lindsay Skuno with our federal compliance manager has been working with Clackamas County Sheriff's Office and trying to offer technical assistance. And yes, we're paying for those window coverings, have a bill from them for $602. So that's our technical support, which we all have to communities that need to come into compliance. What this whole thing means to us is the audit finding is not necessarily a violation, but the way the building is structured, it opens up an opportunity for a violation anytime a kid is brought in. And the number of violations will accumulate over a year, and that will bring the state out of compliance on an annual basis. And being out of compliance now potentially on 2 core protections, we're looking at 20% reduction for each. So anyway, I don't want to talk about doom and gloom right now. I'm still hopeful, but that's the potential. That's the potential future. But right now we're working with Clackamas County to get them to put together a policy that will meet the federal requirement. And another thing is the judicial department has been involved in helping us. I don't use the word negotiate, but to communicate with both Clackamas Court and the Sheriff's Department. So we're all trying to resolve the situation. It just, I don't know, we're not super successful yet.
For the record, I'm Bethany Dreamer. If the policy does get submitted in time and so you can pass that along, is there still the potential for violations?
Yes.
If the policy is not essentially able to be carried out?
Because the way we collect data, so maybe may I take a couple more minutes to talk about what compliance means? So in order for the state or a state, in order for us as a state to be eligible for the funding, Title II funds, which Lawrence will talk about later, agenda, we must meet the requirements of the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Act. There are 33, but 4 are core protections, core requirements that we have to monitor compliance. So the first one is DSO. I will never be able to pronounce it. Deinstitutionalization
of status offenders. So don't keep status of the body knows this, Brian Detmer for the record. Don't institutionalize, don't keep in secure facilities, runaways, low level stuff, status offenses, not criminal offenses. Is that clear?
Thank you for that. The second one is jail removal that we just discussed, so no adjudicated kids can be placed in jails. And sight and sound separation. There has to be a sight and sound separation between adult offenders and youth offenders. And the fourth one is racial and ethnic disparities that Lawrence monitors. So each year we have to submit our data to the feds regarding those four core protections. So our compliance monitoring universe includes any law enforcement agency in the state, which is police department, police precinct, anything to do with municipal law enforcement, all sheriff departments, all jails. We do not inspect prisons, but we do have Department of Corrections, what are the inspectors? Well, when they do their inspections, they have some questions regarding OJDP requirements there. I'm missing somebody. Court holding facilities, which is new because that was a new requirement under the most recent reauthorization of the act. And that's why it kind of caught a lot of states by surprise, including us. OYA facilities, residential facilities, and all detention facilities in the state. So it's pretty vast. So Lindsay collects information from each one of them. And there are specific things, looking for whether status offenders were placed, whether there were any jail removal violations. So they all add up to a certain whatever number was reported during that year. And then we have to meet some thresholds that the feds allow, because so many in this area per capita, so many in another. And once it gets to the level of non-compliance, that's when we get a letter that you're not in compliance. So with Clackamas, we haven't submitted that information yet because it's a brand new facility. But going forward, every time when Lindsay will look up the logs, there was a kid and there was an adult. That's violation, and the number will grow. So, but that's the reality. And Lawrence looks at the racial and ethnic disparities data that we received from OYA, from the JJs, and we monitor disparities with that as well.
Yes, that's why for the record, racial and ethnic disparity coordinator work with OIA is the state governing body that accumulates the data for racial and ethnic disparities within the state and youth who are incarcerated. So they call it the Juvenile Justice Information System, JJIS. That information is shared with us, and we look at the detention facilities throughout the state to see the disparities that exist for youth and color.
Any other follow-up questions for Anya before we go to the Hill Day update? Thank you, Anya, for the context, and Lawrence as well. Good.
Unless Ryan Detmer the record, yeah. I mean, Anya and Lindsay are working on. We'll get a response to OJDDP, Office of Juvenile Justice Delinquency Prevention. We're in regular contact with Clackamas to say we need these policies by the 22nd. We got 10 days plus one. I don't know how many business days there are in there. So we will do our piece, and they've been responsive, and perhaps as we give that response to OJDDP, we'll figure out what their either recommendation or response is, because Clackamas's ability to have a written policy, think that, to be clear, they also have a policy, so that would have been good to have looked at before they built the building. But they're going to update their policy, and perhaps as we move forward, we can then figure out sooner rather than later the actual execution and implementation of that policy so that there aren't violations. So we're in regular contact and communication, and I'll just leave it at that.
For the record, Adrian Anderson, what was Clackamas County doing prior to this new facility?
It's a very good question. Prior to that new facility, they had a youth court. So the juvenile court was adjacent, actually it was inside the juvenile justice department. So there was no potential for any type of violation because it was used for youth only. However, they also had an old court, which sometimes was used for youth as well, but not as frequently as the youth court. That's how we know that they had a policy before. Right? But the way the old building was structured, it did not create this potential for violation.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a little bit of a mind game for me to understand if you already had something similar, why build it without consideration? And why look at it as like you've never heard of it before? However, maybe staff changed, maybe it's a different sheriff in town. Honestly, I'm just guessing. But that's what happened. So having also during the audit, we reviewed Multnomah County Court, and there were no findings about it, but there were some changes that they needed to consider to make. But I don't want to spend too much time on them. They're fine. And they also apparently they were helping Clackamas County in the design, but probably the help was not received.
Perhaps they assumed that this would build the way Mohammed has, which is just its own separate facility.
Right, but it's just seriously the actual building. I mean, it's impressive, and I'll just leave it at that. But the way people who are brought to the hearing enter the building, there's one way out or one way in. There's one elevator, so it's just like a trap.
And again, Brian Duffy for the record, mentioning Multnomah County. Multnomah County has a juvenile justice complex. Multnomah County does have a new courthouse downtown. Sometimes young people are brought downtown, and they were very aware of the provisions and attentive to if and when there are young people brought there, here's what happens.
Right. They were kind enough, they let us share Multnomah policy with Clackamas to use as a, not a template, but at least a guidance in a way. So that audit was quite intense, but overall we are in good standing. They found our compliance monitoring system to be effective and, to say the least, adequate, with just 3 findings. Usually audits like that have way more findings. And Parasa was kind enough to join us at the exit interview, and Brian stayed through the whole audit. So no, I mean, it was a very good educational experience, and we'll deal with it, right? So, because the idea is to protect kids. It's not just about Clackamas and their building. It's not about Clackamas and their policies. The idea is we need to protect youth from any contact with adults. We need to protect youth from being placed in jails, even if it's for 5 minutes when they walk through there. So, and that's the law. That's kind of the bottom line. So funding is one thing, but following, the law protecting youth in justice system, that's what's really at stake here.
For the record, Parsa Chanrami, thank you both Anya and Lindsay and Brian for helping, respond to the audit and the findings, and then
at our next meeting, I think it'll be important to circle back to provide an update on what's changed for Clackamas County, so we could track that and know as council members if there's any additional support we can provide to staff at YDO to ensure that we're meeting the standard and the core protections. So thank you. Next, I just kind of doing the time check and did we want to revisit the vote or do we want to do Hill update next?
I think we should try to revisit the vote.
Revisit the vote.
Then we'll do a quick Hill update.
Quick update.
Ms. Brian Detman for the record, and then we'll give you a break. So we'll get back to the youth grants update. I think we can keep it to less than 40 minutes. We're gonna have to because we're already behind schedule, but this is valuable, fruitful. So yes, for us.
Okay, all right, so I'm passing it to Jeff to provide a brief update.
Yeah, Jeff Justice, for the record, I spoke with the Juvenile Department Director from the River County, Robbie Johnson, and this would actually be, it's a budgetary issue for them, and it's just, it's funding a current position, it would fund a current position in their office. Not adding a new position that might go away if the JCP plan doesn't get approved next year. So they just want to shift the money from the next door to their office, but it's paying for a position that currently exists. That is a bilingual, bicultural juvenile court counselor.
Deputy Tramer for the record.
Yeah.
Does that mean that there will be a shift will that person whose position already exists be able to provide adequate, the same level of service that was proposed by having, an additional partner?
Yeah, Jeff Justice, and I don't know that I can answer that. I figured I probably could have just got, we maybe should have just got Robbie on the phone and asked. So I think it's, and not putting words in her mouth, but I think it's the risk of potentially, for budget reasons, losing a position that is valuable in their office. And it was just in their assessment of the entire gamut of what they provide for youth. The loss of that person would be bigger than potentially some of the services they lose. I will say, I know Next Door, I've worked with them. They're an umbrella organization. They run lots of programs, and there's funding. My guess is that it partially funds a program that's adding those services, and that program will probably continue to exist, either through additional funding elsewhere, maybe with a few less youth they can serve, but again, that's a little bit of speculation there, but I think the concern primarily was losing that position in their office due to budget cuts.
Bobby's line for the record. I can just say, as managing juvenile budgets myself, it's that oftentimes when there are facing budget cuts, one of the first things you do look to cut are contracted services, so that you can keep the fundamental resources of personnel within your juvenile department. And especially if it's a juvenile PO who is bilingual, that would be absolutely vital for Hood River County.
Yeah. As Ann Otero, I wanted, as I recall, these grants, the JCP grants, are really not very much money. So, Anya, can you remind us?
Of course, it's 75,000 for 2 years.
Yeah, it's
because River is a minimum grant amount. That's the amount that we'll be talking about.
Bethany Sharon for the record. And my only concern was making about whether the staff person is able to help fulfill whatever else was in their plan for the remainder of the year. So just ensuring that if the services that were written to be provided by the Next Door, they'll still be meeting all of their plan implementation for year 2 with having this person. And this is because I don't know much about what is in their plan.
So the plan was to fund next door to provide some kind of community engagement for youth who are referred to JCP programming. So what they're requesting is to change the plan. That's why they came to you for the review. So from this point on, the plan will be to provide services using the bilingual, bicultural POs who will be working with the kids. So it's a change of plan from what's been happening until now.
Bethany, thank you, Anya. Any other questions online? And then I'll call for a motion.
This is Melissa Coberto. I don't see any questions or raised hands online. Thank you.
Okay, with that, thank you once again, for the record, Parsa Chanrami. Thank you, Jeff, for making a phone call to add that additional clarity into our meeting today. And thank you, Anya, for helping address questions from the council. So with that, is there a motion on the table to approve the revised plan for Hood River County?
Zan Ojo will make the motion to approve the Hood River JCP plan revision.
Thank you, Zan. Moves the motion. Is there a second?
Bobby Devine for the record, I second that motion.
Bobby seconds. Any final discussion? Everyone online.
We're good online. Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, Parsa Chairman, Melissa, will you call the roll, please?
Yes. Adrian Anderson.
Aye.
Zan Ojero.
Aye.
Stefan Almack. Daniela Avila.
Aye.
Parsa Chanrami.
Aye.
Andrew Copeland. Bobby Devine.
Aye.
Yoselin de la Garza Hernandez Lopez. Jenny Glass. Jeff Justison.
Aye.
Nate Latanzio.
Aye.
Kim Lay. Andy Leonard.
Aye.
Christina McMahon. Jeff Parker. Savannah Relatos.
Aye.
I heard an aye. It was
Thank you.
very faint.
Thank you.
We heard you, Savannah.
Alex Robinson. Hannah Schroeder.
Aye.
Janelle Theobald. Bethany Tramer.
Aye.
Great. And that passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Motion passes. And the last thing we need to wrap up here before a short break is a very brief Hill Day update. And then we're gonna take a short break. So is it Jeff that's providing the Hill update?
I've been talking a lot.
Presenting
Yeah.
us at
Jeff Justice, for the record, it was great. I attended the Coalition for Juvenile Justice Conference along with Brian and Anya, and Molly Rogers was actually there as Wasco County, the longtime CJJ or YDC member, excuse me, and Juvenile Justice Committee Chair. Yeah, the Hill Day was good. I understand it was not quite as ambitious as maybe last year. They tried to hit a lot more. The CJJ conference is held on the week of Memorial Day, and legislators are not in session. So we didn't get a visit, but we did get a visit with one legislative director in Congressman Bent's office, and then a couple of legislative assistants, one in Senator Wyden's office and Bonamici, and Congresswoman Bonamici's office, just advocating for the reallocation of funding, just kind of keeping those relationships open. And then so that was good. And then the conference was good. New one for me. Some stuff I've heard before over the years. A lot of alternative programs, a lot of good community-based programs. Learned some things, made some good connections. So yeah, it was overall a well worthwhile trip. Kind of a long week, but very worthwhile. if anybody has any questions specifically, I can answer them now, or you can catch me at a break or something like that. But yeah, it was great.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for going to DC, and the team for being there, and Molly as well for joining in her capacity. All right, so with that, we're doing a time check, like short break before
Yes, let's take a 10, sorry, Melissa Gallardo for the record. Let's take a 10-minute break. You stretch our legs, go dish up some lunch, and be back here in 10 minutes. We can do that. It's really quick, but that's some good stuff coming out. It's a little bit harder than it's more like
Do I need to meet this?
But they stripped it of all the equipment.
Hey, Joy,
Can
you hear me?
And basically what I'm hearing from
Yeah, I can hear you, Paul.
Perfect.
That's what they would great first. So will you start the recording?
We're gonna get started, folks. Go.
I'm convinced the judges to like literally walk us like get a few steps. It's brilliant, like
So
a
the
thousand
recording
steps to walk.
Wonderful.
So
Thank you again. Good morning, everybody. We're just bringing the meeting back. Want to appreciate Melissa for helping for a really delicious lunch from a local business nearby. Can you remind us the name of the business?
Yes, it's Los Girasoles.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. And then so we're going to pick back up on our agenda, and we will start with Lawrence with the Title II update, and then pass it to Paul next for youth grant updates. Go ahead, Lawrence.
Thank you, Lawrence Pike for the record. Racial and Disparity Coordinator. Really briefly, Title II update, Title II funding update. And we used the fiscal year 21-22 grants. We combined those grants together. We had 3 program areas of community programs and services, alternatives to detention and delinquency prevention. Of those 3 areas, we had 2 recipients in each one of those categories. And this was for the 2025 year. But we use those 2 particular fiscal year funds for. Of those 6 recipients, 3 of them did really outstanding work. So we used fiscal year 2023 funding to continue that work, and that's ongoing in this year, 2026. Also, the second recipient of alternatives to detention, Wasco County, they were doing phenomenal work as well. And because we awarded them $150,000, they were not able to spend it all in 1 year, so we extended them. So currently we have 4 Title II funding grants in play. The 3 of them are an extension of the work that they had been doing since the fiscal year 2021-2022 grant cycles. And also Wasco County is just an extension of that, so they can extinguish all of their funds. We selected these programs again because they did exceptional work, just in different regions of the state, and it's just phenomenal work that they were doing. So that's kind of where we are with Title II funding, and that's really all I have at this time. Moving forward, we'll be looking at fiscal year 2024 with an emphasis on probation. And when I say reform, we're not reforming probation, but it's just the language attached from OJJDP. But we're really placing an emphasis on probation, how we can utilize that untapped resource to keep our youth out of detention facilities. That's all I have.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. Any questions for Lawrence? Not seeing any in the room. Anyone in the physical space, Melissa, with any questions?
This is Melissa Gallardo. I don't see any emails or comments online.
So thank you so much, Lawrence, for the Title II update. Do you have a follow-up?
Yes, and just to highlight the programs that are being extended, and they are Southern Oregon, is the Boys and Girls Club of Corvallis, and also Lane County Youth Services, and like I mentioned before, Wasco Multi-Agency Resource Center, the MARC. They were extended on the original fiscal year 2022 grant that they won. So those are the 4 recipients that are in play as we speak today. And again, they're doing phenomenal work. Thank you.
That's great to hear. Thank you so much, Lawrence. It looks like Jeff had a question.
Just one additional comment, Jeff Justice for the record. It actually worked out really well on Hill Day because with Brian, Anya, and I together, after all, give an overview of what we're doing at statewide. Anya talked about the money, but I was able to actually focus on the MARC program from Wasco County, partly because I was familiar with it, but partly it's an on the ground issue that they could really kind of get behind that. So anyway, I'm glad you brought that one up, Lawrence, because then I can we were able to kind of highlight that. So it was good. Anyway, just wanted to pass it on.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Do you have a question, Bobby, or no? Just kind of stretching. Thank you again, Lawrence. And then go ahead, Brian.
Brian Detman, for the record, I'll just say quickly, because again, I know we're going to move a little bit fast here, folks, if we're trying to catch up. But we will be in our September meeting in the Dalles, and we will have some time to see that program, the multi-agency, what's the R for, Jeff?
Resource Center.
Resource Center. So we'll have, and I just want to remind again, to some extent for our newer folks, but also for folks generally, we 2 times a year, we do meetings on site somewhere. So we really encourage your in-person attendance if you can make it. But it gives us a chance to see something, that's actually happening on the ground. So we'll be in the Dalles in September. I think it's September 10th, Thursday, September 10th. Should have the invitation. Don't want it to be a surprise, but be a real great opportunity to see what Wasco County is doing with this new program that we happen to be funding.
Brian, so one thing, this is Melissa Gallagher for the record. 2 things, actually, sorry. One thing is some of our online attendees are having a hard time hearing us. So I just want to remind everyone to say your name and project when you're speaking in this room. Thank you. And the other thing is, I already forgot what it was.
We can come back to you.
Maybe that's it. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
And for the record, Parsa Chanrami, I was also thinking about these examples being a great opportunity for our storytelling and our work as a council, and the administration of these federal funds, right? And how do we describe that work, thinking about the outstanding work some of the grantees have been doing, thinking of ways we can continue to showcase that with elected leadership, with prospective partners and so forth. So thank you again, Lawrence, great work. Now we're going to pass it to Paul on youth-led grant making.
Thank you. It's Paul Sell for the record, Associate Director overseeing youth grants. And I don't know, Melissa, if it was what you were remembering, but Lawrence, there was some kudos in the chat that was bouncing that I saw kind of come up. So just appreciation for the work that Lawrence has been doing. So I'm going to just go through relatively quickly. I will admit I'm going to probably speed up more just to try to get us a little bit caught up. I think most of our youth committee members have had a chance to see this update, but Nate Latanzio is going to help co-present this from their youth committee. Youth committee, not youth council, youth committee in terms of our grants update. So next slide, please. So just to kind of ground where we're at. So there we go. I can look right here. I don't have to look that way. Just to kind of ground where we're at, we currently have 4 large grant initiatives with executed grant agreements. You can see that on the board. Reengagement Opportunity Grant, our Reengagement Collaborative Grant, Job and Work Readiness, and Community Investments. These are our largest investments that we typically do at the beginning of each biennium. All of those are fully executed and getting close to Q4, right, Jared? Yeah, getting close to reporting Q4, which is the mid-biennium report. I look forward to that information moving along. The next slide shows some grants that we currently have in progress. We'll see a new acronym. Community Investments Title 20. That's the federal award from the Social Services Block Grant. I'm still working on that. Title 20, that's why we call it that. Is a lot easier to say. We are currently in the process of insurance submission from folks that received that conditional award, which is now moving into intent to award, as well as executing some of those grant agreements. That went off of the original community investment RFA, and because of that funding, we were able to award 27 additional grantees within that sector. So it's pretty exciting to do. It's been very interesting to launch grants mid-biennium within that. Just a note, because it is federal dollars, one of the cool things we were able to do is to put it on the federal calendar. So those grants actually officially start October 1, 2025, and we anticipate them running through September 30th, 2027. And I say anticipate is that we still have to receive that second year funding from the federal government within that site. So again, it's been really exciting to see that happen. Abe and Jared have been working quite diligently on our Safe Communities for Youth RFA, and that is just as a reminder, that's a revisioning of what we used to call youth gang and violence prevention grants in prior bienniums. I think I said that backwards, but Abe has done a bunch of research working with Jared to really focus in on that. We anticipate that being launched here in the next couple weeks. We are in the final stages of that. It supports youth impacted by community violence, and it's very specific. So if folks are interested in applying, it really needs to serve youth at imminent risk of victims of gun violence, stabbing, or other serious physical harm. So when you read that, we have tried to update that to be very clear in terms of what those targeted funds are for. It's a relatively smaller grant for us. There'll be about 6 to 8, depending on how many requests we get moving forward within that. That is focused primarily on 16 through 24. Just as a reminder, we have started using them primarily because we really want to help folks target in on where and what age we should be doing, but we also don't want to limit flexibility, because we know that younger youth sometimes find themselves in those situations, and we don't want to hinder that as an opportunity for use of those funds. With launching that here in this June, those funds will be used during the 26-27 school year throughout that course of that, with funds ending June 30, 2027 for those awardees on that side. And the max amount that folks can apply for that is $150,000. So stay tuned in terms of that being released here soon. Any questions on the current work that we're doing? Nate, I'm just checking. You're online. By the way, I love your background. It just totally fits your. I haven't get to know you. So, any questions on those current ones? All right, so we're gonna switch gears a little bit. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Nate's gonna jump on and help me present our youth-led grants, which the acronym is YLG, and we are bringing a RFA process approval request to the council regarding these funds. Next slide, please. So just to kind of pull us back in terms of why we're where we're at, back in September 2025 council meeting, we suggested to pause the legacy community schools grants that we've been managing over the course of, I think, pretty much the existence of YDO, is from my understanding on it. The council had made a motion, and it was so moved to move these funds to have the youth committee work on how to distribute these, focused around youth voice and youth engagement. And so that's really kind of a shift in that work. So we're excited to do that. So where we're at right now, June 2026, is we're bringing the YDC process approval request for these to move forward with an RFA on that. Just a couple things to note. This is really a proposed process created as an initial concept. What we learned very quickly diving into it, and I really want to appreciate Sally Deck, who is unable to be here today, as well as Jared Shaw for helping pull these together. And once we started having conversations, we realized we needed to start with a concept, recognizing that we have to learn how to do this, and then we will use that information moving forward within that. And so because of that, we have some limited eligibility and a time frame on it. We have it listed as a very broad scope with a multitude of entry points for folks. We also are suggesting a lottery-based award. When we started talking about having young people involved, we did not really love the idea of having a 20% award rate based on how other people evaluated it, or 30%. So we're moving forward with where we're suggesting that we use a lottery-based award. We also are setting it up that applicants have to match their current 25-27 insurance requirements. We don't want to add anything, especially for the size these grants are, along that. And then you'll notice this, and you'll see this throughout. It must be youth-led in both design and implementation. And there's asterisks on there specifically because we don't want organizations to feel like they just have to hand over these dollars to it. We really do want guided by program staff intentionally, because it's a learning lesson for young people within what they want to do. And so then we are anticipating that we want to do a release in August, September, which will then have the funds available for the 26-27 school year. Again, these are general fund dollars, and so they do sunset or have to be spent no later than June 30, 2027. With that, I think, Nate, you're up on the next slide if you're ready. Yeah, I see your head nod. Perfect. It's weird to have a screen in front of me doing this. So I'm going to turn it over to Nate to talk a little bit about where we're at right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Paul. Nate Latanzio, council member for the record speaking. Yeah, this is honestly a pretty exciting initiative. And I love, like, I might speak to it in just a few minutes, but like, I love like the way in which we got here, the way these ideas flushed out, because we had group conversations as a youth committee. We did some breakout one-on-one sessions, which honestly, I found that to be a pretty neat, innovative idea for getting youth engagement specifically on these. So you can kind of really just tap into really what folks are feeling like the best use of these funds are. So this is kind of like where we landed at. So I'll talk through a few pieces, and I would love to hear if there's any questions that are coming up. But like the whole, I guess the overarching umbrella goal within these goals is that this is designed to uplift youth voice and action within their community through youth-centered empowerment and design. So there's a lot of great things there, but like what it looks like specifically. So there's going to be quite a few of these grants. It's essentially, we had a lump sum of dollars, and we're like, hey, we could allocate this to one particular thing, one particular project idea. But within it, we were like, hey, what if we broke this up into smaller ticket items where it's smaller amounts of money, but it does empower young people to be able to really take the lead on these things. So some goals of the youth-led grants are to create a funding source to support youth-led projects across Oregon. Again, like Paul mentioned, it's not like, oh, you're a youth, all right, here's this amount of money, do as you will. Like there's a level of like guidance and support from program staff, not in a way that it's like, hey, we're trying to lead you in the direction we want this to go. It's more of like, okay, this is where y'all are wanting to grow. Great. Let's see how we can help scaffold and support in getting there, because there's a partnership that can be had there. That's really helpful to have. So within this, it provides low barrier, low risk opportunities for youth to access project funding. And a lot of that stems out of like, it's one thing to have an idea, especially as a young person, like a lot of different ideas come up. Let me pause real quick. Say as a young person brought my hand to me, I'm 29, so I'm kind of like pushing that criteria. I'm saying young people, generally speaking, can have an idea, but like not the means to pull off the idea. And that usually, that means tends to attribute to money. So within that's what this is about. This is providing the means for folks to pull off ideas that they likely are already having. So it increases youth participation in youth-led safe and welcoming opportunities. Again, this is a broad focus of what folks decide to do with these funds. What young people decide to do can be quite broad. And there will be a few examples, I think, in a slide or so. Let me see here. Other goals: encourage youth engagement and leadership within their communities. Again, that is where the leadership aspect comes in. And I was just recently at one of the convenings of like YDO grantees, which like was mentioned. That's who this will be like an opportunity for to apply for these funds. But there was conversation, at least at the mid-zone convening. I'm not sure if all the others, but we're talking about the ladder of youth voice that we talked about back in the retreat for this council. I don't remember what month last year, but sometime last year. So it's cool. So that it's exciting within that because it empowers youth voice and action through community-based service providers. Let's move to the next slide. I feel like I'll have a little bit more to say on those pieces. Thank you. So really, what does that youth-led means? Okay, great. And it's nice to have the bullets here because I was like, I feel I was getting ahead of myself a bit. So this is a project that is generated through a program's engagement, because it's a program that we're actively funding that already meets the insurance requirements, all of those pieces. They're actively engaging with those young people already. So that's kind of the perfect avenue to be able to offer an opportunity like this for folks to come up with ideas and then apply for these funds. And it's led through that youth leadership, like was mentioned. So the project design and development described in the application must be imagined and planned by youth while also guided by program staff. Because, I mean, there's a partnership to be had here, because we don't want to just leave folks out to dry. We're like, yes, you got money and you have an idea and there you go. Just kind of do with it as you will. The goal is to help scaffold and support along the way. And again, this is going to look quite different from one place to another, but that's kind of the whole point of it, is to be broad and see what are all the things that come up, what are all the learnings that we have in this new process, because it's exciting stuff. So if awarded, project implementation, facilitating the thing, and reporting is done through youth leadership, again, while guided by program staff. Not trying to throw people out in the water here, really trying to help have a system of support from the staff that are already there to facilitate this. And I think there's some details on like how those funds can be used in regards to like supporting program staff's time and energy and effort into doing it. But I would leave that to Paul to kind of get a little bit more deeper into that, because I'm not sure all the details of it currently. Next slide. I think I just have a few more things to mention. Thank you. So all of this to say, this is to create an opportunity for youth to act on something important to them with their community. That's why it's such a broad focus, is because we're not going to know what's important for every single young person, every group of young people across the state of Oregon. So it makes a lot of sense, like, hey, let's make this a broad focus, but also like we have some safeguards within there to ensure that this is really facilitated in a way that is youth-led and it is empowering and not just pulling people along the way. So some ideas on what projects could look like, but it's certainly not limited to this list. I'll read through them, but again, this can look a lot of different ways. Is creating supports and or services for young people or others, honoring the whole person, family, and or community, creating fun and interesting opportunities. Like I've heard an idea that came out, I don't remember when I heard it. I think maybe I've just been talking with Sally and Paul, but like the idea of doing like a mural or something like that. Something can be artistic, it can look a lot of different ways. Social well-being connection, youth-led projects, activities, educational opportunities. Let's see. Trying to think. I think I covered a lot of, supporting youth through stipends or honorariums to plan and or participate, which is really helpful in just compensating youth for their time to do the work, which is exciting stuff to see. And then supporting tribal, cultural, and or community youth center activities and programming. Let's see. Trying to think if there's any last thing. I don't think so. I'm open to question now. Also, there's still more to come, so I'll pass it to Paul, and Amanda will hold space for questions once we're finished with that.
Thanks, Nate. I don't know where that came from. Thanks, Nate. I apparently forget to E at times. Paul Self for the record. Nate, I think Nate did a wonderful job explaining kind of where we came to be with this plan, and I will say it was awesome to go meet individually with the youth council members. A lot were in person. Also, we did some virtual meetings just to understand the context. So this list is really what we heard from our youth committee members, which I think was cool to experience on that. So if we go to the next slide, this is the nitty gritty that Nate was referring to. Obviously, the council has to approve the RFA process. And so because this is drastically different than what we typically do for a large RFA, this didn't fall within that category of approval. So I'm going to walk us through very quickly those 5 items. Nate covered some of this stuff, so I'll probably touch just quickly on it as we go through. So next slide. So the timeline for this, we are currently in the development of this process with the youth committee, but also with ODE procurement, because we are bringing in some new concepts. The lottery has been a really interesting conversation because that is a different way of doing some of these competitive awards. So we are in conversation with that. Our goal again is to release late summer, early fall to be utilized within the 26-27 school year. Now, just to kind of point out, we purposely hit pause on launching it this spring because if we want youth involved in the project, it kind of feels like they should be connected to the programming and some programming changes throughout the summer within it. And so we wanted to target where most youth would be connected to that programming. And so we made that purposeful suggestion. We're also going to suggest an abbreviated application window, and we'll go a little bit into what that looks like and why we mean that in a bit. Next slide. So a couple things to consider. It's interesting writing a public RFA with the intent and design requiring youth leading the ideas and implementation. So hopefully you'll see that laced in there. And that was one of the things we heard from our youth committee members along the way. One of the ways that we're suggesting to do that is by requiring 85% plus of the dollars that they receive go directly to the project itself. That can be used to pay young people. That's part of the project. It can be used to do whatever that project outlines. And so there is a bit of a shift. We're saying to limit at 15% or less that can be used for admin as well as for the direct adult staffing costs associated with that. That limits it about $750 if in a $5,000 application, as an example within that. The proposed project must clearly show youth ideas, leadership, involvement, and implementation. This is going to be the interesting part for us. I think when we see ideas, and having come from schools, you see ideas of young people, you're like, that sounds amazing. It kind of surfaces pretty quickly. So we're excited to see what that is. And so those applying to it really suggest that you make it sure that it looks like those youth and young people's ideas. So the next slide. So the way we're suggesting to do it this biennium, and I want to just be very clear because I recognize this is a very limited eligibility. We're suggesting that we limit it to the 25-27 YDD grantees, which does include the Title II that Lawrence presented, as well as the formula funding that Anya works with tribes and counties. And so it does open that up a little bit in regards to that. So you can see the list there of all the youth grants and the Title II formula grants. And JCP grants, excuse me. Just as a note, to be eligible, applicants will have to have an executed grant agreement prior to the closing of this RFA. And so we just have to kind of set a date so we know exactly where it is, because if it's a moving date, it's hard to close the RFA. And then currently meeting all of the 25-27 insurance requirements, which is published with the RFA as draft. And so folks can see that. And that'll be part of the minimum qualifications. Next slide, please. We're also being creative in terms of how we can utilize these funds. And so we're suggesting the one application per organization during an initial application window. And so in an RFA, we have to define what that window is. We have to define then the processes if we're going to keep that open in terms of that. So this looks very specific. We track all of this in Survey Must Be Applied in terms of it. So during the initial application window, which will have solid close dates, open and close dates, an applicant can, or one application per organization. And then if we have funds remaining, we have a process set up so that we don't have to reopen an RFA, that it is just flowing. And so that a second application per organization could be submitted 7 calendar days following the publication of those first awards. We have to set timeframes without actually setting timeframes because we have to have it listed so people can calculate within that. I see that in these people here saying, wow, there's some, yeah, we put some thought into this. And then a third application can be submitted no sooner than 7 calendar days. And the reason we're going up to 3 is we don't want to relaunch an RFA in terms of asking for more. So we're anticipating that, but we'll clearly communicate that. And again, applicants may apply for up to $5,000 per application, and it does not count against their $600 thousand limit for the larger youth grant awards. So, all right.
Just
Yeah.
clarify. Bethany, Chair, for the record. The third application may be submitted no sooner than 7 calendar days following the second submission, so not the second publication.
Not the second publication. And you'll see why in just a minute. Yeah, no, totally. I appreciate the question. No, and clarification in that. So one of the things that we are anticipating doing is using SurveyMonkey Apply because it has timestamps on everything, and people will be able to access their timestamps at any given time. So that's why these are written in a pretty specific way on that side. I just want to spoil the reason why. I'm just kidding. All right. Next slide. I think. Oh no. Okay. So the program requirements, and this is one of the things that is interesting in a RFA is we need to be able to say, yes, this is what the applicant says. So we're going to have applicants attest that the proposed project was designed and created by youth, right? We're also going to have the applicant attest that the application being reviewed and submitted was by program staff because of the access to SM Apply or SurveyMonkey Apply, which is our application portal. And then lastly, if awarded, applicant attests to having the capacity to the project being youth-led. And so those are yes/no questions. And if people are applying, they'll have to attest to it, because if then it becomes clear that it's not, then they would lose the funding within that. Again, the youth-led definition, which would be part of the application itself. Next slide. I think this questions. Yes. So questions on that kind of general detail. All right.
Anything online?
Anything online? I have not been watching the chat, so plus I also know it comes up on the screen. So, all right, so gonna go ahead and go to the next slide, which is again a little bit into the details with it, and to address Bethany's question as well. So the evaluation and award, we're proposing that we do a set of minimum qualifications, which is standard in all RFAs. Like they have to be an eligible entity, for example. It's a yes/no question with procurement. That's a pass/fail. Several questions within that. And then project youth. Our project scope review, which will be set up with YDO panel review. I should say reviewers. I apologize. The YDO panel reviewers, which hopefully we'll have some members from the youth committee want to join us on it. And basically, it's a read over to see if it's an adult writing that and proposing that idea, or if it's really generated within that. So those that are applying will have to keep that in mind, that will be a pass/fail before you move into the lottery award. So applications that meet the MQs and PSR, again, more acronyms, but the project scope review will be entered into a lottery and randomly selected, which we will publish at the end. Again, another reason why we're considering using SurveyMonkey Apply. So then postal lottery awards, if funds remain following that lottery, subsequent application windows will open. And so that's why that language, Bethany, is very specific, so that we can actually have a timestamp of once they submit a second award, right? So if they're right after 7 days, they submit it, then they can submit it another 7 days. But if we have organizations that wait, then they will have to wait. And we're doing that because we want to be able to award those in the order received for the remaining funding, right? So that when we don't have any actual timestamps that we have to follow, other than when they come in, we review it, we have funds available, then we can get it out the door in that process. Does that answer your? I told you it's coming. Yeah, perfect. All right. Next slide, please. I see some questions. I'll circle back to the questions once we get there. So the intent to award and beyond, right? So currently we have just under $160,000 as part of this project. We had some leftover funding that we chose not to issue at very low dollar amounts for the next awardees in the general fund application. So we've set that aside. So it's a little bit bigger than what we saw in community schools. If we have applicants apply up to $5,000, that's 30 to 35 awards. One thing I appreciate Brian called us out on this, we didn't indicate our anticipation with the tribal awards in this, because all federally recognized tribes, all 9 of them are eligible for this because of the work Anya does with the formula funds, is that we will do a set aside for those 9. Most likely it would be during the that initial, because we do want to ensure that we get those funds out. So we'll set some timelines in that, but that's a typical process we've been doing and we see throughout the state. Funds for use during the 26-27 school year. it is a one-time funding with specific grant agreement. And we're doing that very specifically because if we did amendments, which you may have heard us talk about, that requires legal sufficiency review on every single grant that's above $250,000, or every single one of the grants that we offer in youth grants. So you can imagine the delay in that. So we have chosen to do a specific grant agreement. The first deliverable is a project plan. And that's a really important piece. That's when YDD staff meet with the successful applicants to talk over what that plan is. And that is the deliverable. So then at that point, folks can go ahead and request reimbursement because they're demonstrating that they're ready to do that. And there's some specifics around ensuring that we are able to demonstrate that this project is what it is before we release those funds. On that side, reporting and timeline will be agreed upon in the project plan. So you won't see that other than that phrase in the RFA because we want to work with what that design is. As Nate referenced, we have no idea what it's going to look like. I think there's going to be some amazing opportunities out there. So we want to be as flexible as we can within it and be able to report on it. Next slide. So I will say this is one of my beliefs in any of our processes is that we need to honor an opportunity to say, hey, you didn't do things right. And so we are keeping the same appeal process that we've added in all of our RFAs, our youth grants RFAs. And so we'll set up the same way we did our other ones, which is to have the applicants that think there was some wrongdoing, they can apply, or they can submit a form, which will then start the appeal process within it. So it'll look just the same as our other ones, as well as offering applicant feedback. If you have young people involved in it, I think it's really important for us to take time especially if they were unsuccessful in a lottery. One, they hear it from us that it was a lottery, it wasn't reviewed, and here's what we saw really cool about your project plan, or about your project proposal on that side. So we will be offering those same opportunities within. I think that is this project. Next slide, please. I'm trying to remember what my next slide is, though. Perfect. Questions, and then I do have a suggested motion. So I went through that super fast.
Thank you so much, Paul and Nate, for the presentation. Just a couple reminders before I open it up to questions. For folks who are joining as members of the public, if you have comments or questions, there's a public comment portion at the very end. But I wanted to pause here to see if there are any questions from council members. Go ahead, Zan.
Zan Ogier, I just wanted to commend YDO staff and Nate for working on this process. I think it sounds like a very good and nimble process for this exploratory approach to youth and directly funding youth projects.
Thank you, Zan.
Thank you,
Bethany Tramer, for the record. You said there won't be a timeline, or that it'll be part of the project plan, the timeline for reporting. Is there any express interest needed that we want to be able to report back on this new funding stream to legislative session before biannual funding June? Or it's just up to allocation of YDO?
Brian Bettman, for the record. Yeah, I need to think about that a little bit in terms of the legislative session in the spring. I think we'll have some sense of at least the projects that we're funding, but we hadn't set the timeline with some direct relationship to the legislative session, but that's a good thought. And nor have we do know from the governor's office that and I think all state agencies have been told to not put forward requests for new funding. So we imagine in the next next biennial budget, that we hope that our budget remains at current service level, which is to say that it remains the same, but we also know we'll be asked to submit reductions. So we're not going to ask for new money. We've been told we can't ask for new money, but then we could say, this is a cool thing that we're doing and here's how much it's costing. And as a council, certainly though, you are also governor appointees, so certainly there could be a conversation about how the impact of this would. That answers your question.
Well, Bethany, Chair for the record. Suggestion perhaps in follow-up for awardees and the project plan is that there might be a question, would you be interested in providing testimony or sharing a project review that could be shared publicly, right? As part of that plan, so that you have an idea if any of those youth that are helping lead this process want to be able to share about it or publicize what they're doing.
Absolutely. And also for the record, awesome. Good point on that. And I think one of the things that I feel comfortable with saying is that I think we will be able to talk about our grants when we hit that legislative session. We are still figuring out how we would incorporate 30 more grants into grant managers' schedules and what that looks like. And you can imagine the project plans are at least an hour plus time frame for working with young people. So we have some logistics that we will do internally, but I feel very confident that we'll be able to talk about where we are at with the projects and keep the YDC updated along the way. I see a question, and there was also a couple comments. So Daniela, question, comment?
Yeah, this is just more of a comment. I just want to give a shout out to the team and to the committee members who have worked on this. I had the opportunity to work on it, and I think that I recognize that it's a ton of work. It's a big lift, right, for this unique unicorn of what we're trying to do. But also, I firmly believe that it's a low stake. We're trying to make it low barrier, real world opportunity to really put our money where our mouth is and provide opportunities that are applied learning. So I just want to give a shout out to everybody who was part of this. I think it's exciting work.
Thank you, Danielle. I will admit, I didn't know what this was going to entail when we got it appointed to the youth committee in September. It's been a lot of fun, and I don't know if Jared wants to say. I mean, it's been a journey, I think, in learning. Anything you want to add to it?
Yeah, it's been an interesting process. I think we want to get dollars out into the community as much as we can through youth, and I think it's really just a great opportunity to give youth that opportunity and to explore a new way of funding things. I think it's completely new for us, and so we'll see how it goes. It's a kind of a fun pilot.
I also feel like I should shout out for ODE procurement. As we've presented this idea, they have been very open and be like, "Oh, we've never done that. Let's talk about it." And we are really diving into pushing some of these concepts on it. If you think about the logistics of getting $5,000 out for this work is unique in itself. So we're excited about it. Other questions, comments? Nate.
Nate Latanzio speaking for the record. I just wanted to say one thing that just came to mind that I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. And just the way it's structured right now, this gives us the opportunity to practice like offering grants, offering funds for youth-led projects, youth-led activities. And within it, also within grantees, I would imagine quite a few already do this, but even for those that are maybe a bit newer that haven't done a youth-led project, they haven't either they felt comfortable to do it or they just haven't tried it before, gives the opportunity for them to do it while it's not risking any of their other budget, any of the other pieces. Hey, this is a separate pot of money. We're offering this as something you can tap into, and then provides them the opportunity to see what young people are truly capable of, what empowerment looks like in action. So I just wanted to share that because it's exciting stuff.
I'd also want to open the floor to any of our youth committee members that have been a part of these conversations. I don't know if anybody wants to say anything more in terms of youth committee members. I don't know if we have any in the room actually, but so you're all online.
I think there was also a question, Parsa Chanrami for the record, a question around what definition of youth is going to be factored in for the grants?
That's a great question. Honestly, I've purposely kind of left it open, and because I think it really has to be defined on the organization, and so I would probably say that it needs to be designed by and supported through youth leadership from our 6 to 24 range as an agency, and I think that's a great question that we're going to have to wrestle with clarifying in the scope. I think I'm looking at Jared because we're going to have to wrestle with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, I think 6 through 24 is the age range served, and as of now, we have not narrowed that down within that. I think it's, you know, totally open to projects that serve youth 6 through 24.
6 or 16.
Six.
Yeah, I'd also note that we're not necessarily defining what guided by program staff means. Because to me, that would look different if we do. I mean, it'd be amazing if we get 6-year-olds that want to do some cool projects in their communities. Right? That'll be fascinating. It would be exciting, but that would look very different than a workforce crew that is pretty dialed into doing these kind of projects. So we want to remain flexible in that realm. Other questions? And I feel bad because I'm actually have to amend my motion suggestion. So next slide, please. To try to make it, we do have a requested YDC action. So to approve the 26-27 YDO youth-led grants RFA process as proposed, including RFA release, application, evaluation, and scoring, intent to award, and beyond, and appeal. The piece that I would like to add to that suggested motion is that we do a set aside for all tribes, for all federally recognized tribes, I need to say it correctly, during that first application window. So there's my suggested request of motion.
Thank you, Paul and team. For the record, Parsa Chanrami. Thank you, Paul and team, Nate and the youth committee, for all of your work in just thinking about the journey we've been on from the end of last year to now, and the adaptation, thinking about feedback we've heard along the way at our different quarterly meetings. And so thank you, and I appreciate the specific language on the set aside for federally recognized tribes. So with that, this is our final vote for the meeting, and we're gonna do some rearranging after this to accommodate our presentation here for Sequoia Falls. So with that, checking in, do we have who would like to make a motion?
Santa will make the motion. I move that we approve the 2026-27 YDO youth-led grants request for application process as proposed, including release, application, evaluation, and scoring, intent to award, and beyond, appeal, and set aside for the 9 federally recognized tribes during the initial application window.
Thank you, Zan. Is there a second?
I will second Draper.
Thank you, Bethany, for the second. Any discussion? All right. Melissa, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Adrian Anderson. Aye. Zan Ojero.
Aye.
Stefan Almack. Daniela Avila.
Aye.
Parsa Chanrami.
Aye.
Andrew Copeland. Bobby Devine.
Aye.
Yosemi de la Garza Hernandez Lopez. Jenny Glass. Jeff Justison.
Aye.
Nate Latanzio.
Aye.
Kim Legg. Andy Leonard.
Aye.
Christina McMahon. Jeff Parker. Savannah Relatos.
Aye.
The quiet eye. Thank you so much. Alex Robinson. Hannah Schroeder.
Aye.
Janelle Theobald. Bethany Tramer.
Aye.
And that passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion passes. All right. So just a quick time check, and we're gonna rearrange the agenda for the team, the Title 20 grant agreement updates and the annual forum update. Okay. Oh, we did. Okay, those were included. Okay. So there'll be one that will move after the presentation from our grantees, so we can accommodate their schedule and, okay. All right, and with that, do I pass it to Brian for introductions or post that?
Jared's gonna introduce Jen. Please.
Yes. Yes. All right. Jen, I think we're ready for you all. Jared Shaw for the record. I would like to introduce Jennifer Hannan, who is the administrator of alternative programs. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Here at Sequoia Falls, and all of the youth who are joining us. It has been my pleasure to work with Jennifer over the last, I think, 3 biennia now. Maybe this is the 4th. Sequoia Falls has had a re-engagement grant with us each of those biennia. So it's been my pleasure to work with Jennifer on that grant, and they are doing some fantastic work here at Sequoia. So I will turn it over to Jennifer and the youth here who have joined us to talk about some of their experiences and just the fantastic work that they are doing here.
Thank you, and welcome to Sequoia. So Sequoia Falls came about just when the COVID closure happened. Sequoia opened because we had been talking as a district for a couple of years about the graduation rate, specifically Silver Falls traditionally has had a very high graduation rate, about 93%. And our school board asked us, like, who are the 7%? Why, like, what would it take for that 7% to be able to graduate? What would it take to get to 100? So we had done some deep dives into that data prior to COVID. And then, when COVID hit, we could have had those answers, that the answer to that was significant disruption to education, significant or complex or acute or active trauma, or housing insecurity, food insecurity, kids trying to navigate things that were beyond their control, that our traditional high school calendar and schedule does not support. So, for example, if a student lost housing and were displaced for a period of time, even if they were able to return to school within 3 or 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks in a traditional high school schedule is almost impossible to come back in an 8-period day. So there's, all of those examples of why that 7% is not finishing. And then, so we knew that information going into COVID, and we were well aware that some of the kids that we would be serving would not be effectively engaging during closure. So we opened at that time. And the Reengagement Opportunity Grant specifically funds our transition specialists, and one of them, she might have just gone with the kid upstairs, but she's here. And these kids can speak a bit to what the transition specialists do, but also fund things like the kitchen, how important is the kitchen?
Crucial.
But it just helps us reduce barriers to engagement and successful completion and successful transition into workplace or college or career. So I'm going to ask the kids to tell you a bit about what led them out of general mainstream education and into a program like Sequoia. And then we can take any questions, and our staff is here to speak to any adult questions as well. You want to start, Ruby? Sure. Great. This is Ruby. Ruby just graduated a bit early, started college and just made Dean's List her first session college.
I ended up transferring to Sequoia my junior year, I had about a 25% attendance rating all throughout going to Silverton High School because I just couldn't make it to school for different kinds of personal reasons. And I ended up transferring to Sequoia my junior year because I, at that point, was thinking I was probably just going to get my GED and call it a day. And then Chris introduced me to the hybrid program. And then I did that hybrid program, and since I was working full time, it gave me the flexibility to be able to not only do all my schoolwork and get it in on time, or if not early, and go to work 40 hours a week. And then I was able to graduate with that program about a year and a half early, and as she said, do my college stuff and get it all the way done. And I ended up getting emancipated at that time as well, and just figuring out my stuff as an adult. And yeah.
Ruby. And Jordan just graduated last week. Our transition specialist is helping her register for her college classes today.
I transitioned into Sequoia after dropping out for 2 years. I dropped out halfway through my freshman year. I didn't really fit in at the high school. I had problems making friends. I had problems with just kind of that education style. It was hard for me to keep up with the pacing of the high school. And about halfway through, I kind of hit some depression spouts, and I kind of gave up, and that put me pretty far behind. I decided to drop out in the hopes of either getting my GED or just pursuing work. I stayed stagnant for about 2 years. I was enrolled into a online school program and did pretty much nothing with it. Halfway through my junior year, I kind of realized that my future was in my hands, and I decided, oh, I should probably do something about that. So I reached out to Sequoia, and they had me enrolled within the same week that I called. I started and I took off. I started becoming a straight A student. I even decided to take a class at the high school, which was something that I couldn't have fathomed years ago. And I got involved with the theater program and the choir program, and I just took off with it. I grew a lot socially here. A lot of my peers have gone through some similar things, and this place has just helped exponentially. I don't know if I could have made up that amount of credits in this amount of time. I was able to make up 4 years of high school in 2 years because I transferred halfway through my junior. So, yeah, this place has helped me more than anywhere I probably could have gone, online or elsewhere. So, that's been my journey through Sequoia.
Thanks, Charles. Abby, Abby graduated last week as well and is registered this morning for college classes and is taking a little break from World Cup to speak about it.
That's only one girl.
Oh,
let's see. Well, in freshman year, I started out like really bad in high school, and I was moving around a lot, and I wasn't really in a good place ever in high school, and I actually tried to get my grades up. I came here to Silverton first freshman year. I had to move my family to Salem. It wasn't really working out, so I got my car and all that, tried to travel to Silverton to make it work, but I couldn't make up the amount of credits. Not only because of how far behind I was, but also the stuff that was happening in my elementary. So a counselor in Silverton High School ended up telling me about Sequoia, and I ended up coming here. They helped me they helped me catch up with my current classes that I was falling behind in. And even then, throughout my high school, I haven't really been the luckiest. To be honest, I a lot of stuff that happened this past year that I could honestly have not been able to deal with without Sequoia. At some point, I wanted to drop out. I didn't want to finish high school, and I just wanted to continue. But Sequoia helped me push through. They not only with helping me physically with finding housing, helping me get through my classes, but actively getting me here to school, but also helping me emotionally with stuff, being able to talk to people here. Without Sequoia, I really I would have been lost. But these people have really helped me a lot, and I look to them for support throughout the day.
And Chris actually graduated in previous year. He's happened to be walking across the parking lot this morning. You should pop in. So here he is.
So I graduated 2 years ago. I'm 20 years of age. When I first started high school, I actually really liked school a lot. I like doing math. I like doing reading, writing, all that other stuff. And unfortunately, during the second semester of freshman year, my cousin was murdered. for $10. So that destroyed my entire family. I stopped going to school for the other half of freshman year. I didn't care about anything. Sophomore year, I was just a jokester pretty much. I didn't really care to do school unless it was something that, you know, really interested me, like math, for instance, or writing again, anything where I could put my brain to work. But history, for example, I could just zone out and miss it completely. Junior year, I finally decided to, you know, be an adult, put my big boy pants on and, you know, get stuff done. I finally had passed all my classes for the first semester of my life, which was junior year. And then when senior year came, I was still 2 years behind because I decided to just joke around and not take school seriously. And then I came to Sequoia, and because of them, I was able to just breeze right through work. I went from being 2 years behind to graduating ahead of some of my other peers. If it wasn't for Sequoia, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in right now. I wanted to go to Job Corps. I went to be an electrician, and that didn't quite work out, but I'm probably going to go back. I'm trying to go into HVAC and, you know, all the other different possible careers I could choose from. I got a lot of experience, a lot of learning, a lot of passion, and more importantly, how to keep on trying, how to not fear failure from Sequoia. All it's done the entire time that I've been here, which I did come here sophomore year for summer school as well. So for 2 years, this place had been, you know, a stable for, you know, kids who go through something traumatic with their family, with their relationship with their best friends, where their whole world feels like they're crumbling down, and all you need is one person with one hand to pull you up, or even reach out to just try to make you feel seen or accepted or heard or anything else. And Sequoia does that perfectly. If it wasn't for Sequoia, there are a lot of teenagers, now adults, and probably kids even, who would be in far worse positions. If it wasn't for Sequoia, some people, unfortunately, wouldn't be alive with us today. And honestly, I think Sequoia is something that the majority of students need. In my opinion, the traditional school system doesn't teach you the way that Sequoia does. Sequoia will give you real life lessons that you will use on a daily basis. They'll help you take your driver's test. They'll help you with your birth certificate or anything that you may need. I mean, one time they even helped me out with gas just out of the kindness of their heart because I was running low and I needed it to make it to my mom's. Sequoia in need, regardless of if it's an old student or a currently active student or a student that is trying to enter the program. They will always help in any way they can. And there are countless students who are so very appreciative for all of them.
You can still pop in for socks and food 2 years later. You need to. A good thing, right? And mommy. And this is Arlo. Arlo's a current student. Arlo, can you speak a bit to why Sequoia works a bit better for you than the traditional high school?
So when I was going to Silverton High School, I didn't have a lot of friends, and I never really felt included. I just sit in the classroom. There'd be probably 34 other kids, and I'd just be alone. I didn't like that. And it wasn't really just the kids; it was the staff. I'd broken my back late my sophomore year, or no, my freshman year, and I developed nerve damage, and I required like a 504 now, so it was hard to sit down. Like anything that really touched my back would just make you freak out. So like chairs, sort of sit and stuff. So I'd have to walk around, and that was part of my 504. But a lot of the teachers didn't really understand it. And I made like bad relationships there, but at Sequoia, I feel like I can choose where I sit, and I have friends here. And the teachers are like my friends as well. I just couldn't really take it anymore at the high school. It was just a lot every day. But here it's like nothing really. I just come and do my work and get to, not feeling overwhelmed with school. So that's how it's helping.
Thanks, Arlo. I should speak quickly to some of the things the kids alluded to, the mental and behavioral health support. We do have offices upstairs. We do have mental and behavioral health support on site. The kids do specially designed instruction and experiential learning in mental health and behavior every day, except Wednesday. Here on site, every kid does that. And then we also have active mental health treatment plans that happen in our upstairs, and we'd say 80-ish% of our kids are engaged with that work. And then one of them alluded to helping with like birth certificates and driver's license, and that's the comprehensive case management that goes with Sequoia. We have a family support advocate who is here, and then each kid has an advisor as well as a transition specialist to help with like whatever barriers are coming up. Those are the things that we're going to address, whether it's specifically education related or not. And those are the things that our reengagement grant pays for. So thank you guys for all of that work. After the meeting, we're happy to give tours of the rest of the building to anybody who would like to do that. Right now, if anybody has questions for our kids or our staff back there, yes.
Lawrence White. My question is for the young lady to my right. Thank you for sharing your story. Not yellow part. I'm sorry. You mentioned that what you went through, and then you said you reached out to support them. What prompted you? What motivated you to reach out and seek the help that you so desperately wanted?
I didn't have any questions or comments from council members. Oh, Nate.
I think I heard my name. I think I heard my name. Hopefully I'm not talking over anyone. I just had a question. Oh, sweet, camera's back. All right. Hello, everybody. Now I can see you and you can see me. Question that I just had, and I'm just because it sounds like such like just a really cool program that's there and all the different like services that they're offering. I'm just curious, like, do you feel like, and by all means you don't have to answer this. I just wanted to, I figured I'd throw this out there. Do you think there's anything that like the traditional like public school where you at originally, do you think there's anything that they could have done different to make it where you did feel like you could have stayed there? Or does it feel like there needs to be like an alternative like where you're at now or where you've graduated from? Because I've heard kind of like both sides of the coin. I coordinate a youth council, so I hear both sides of it. Like, yeah, if they changed this, then it would have been fine. I've also heard like, no, it needed to be something completely different. So I just figured I'd throw it out there and see thoughts.
Well, for me, honestly, for me it was just a choice because I started out in the Silverton High School and I was doing like I wanted to learn. I wanted to, do that, actively engage, and I was doing well. But it was when I was having family problems that we had to move to Salem. I changed up like a completely different like environment. And like I say, it just really depends on where you are because like over there, the teachers, they didn't really actively like want to like teach. They didn't care as much. Like here at Silverton, the teachers did talk to you like in their own time, and they did teach you step by step. Over there in the north, they didn't care, but when I came back to Silverton, I tried the same like methods and the same teachers. It didn't work the same. Like I was already way too behind. And I was like, it wasn't the same. So my counselor over there, Miss White, she told me about Sequoia and how they like were like hands on, more like up, like come towards you and like not just like keep you on your thing, but also in person classes they teach you, like they take you places to learn. They like actually put hands on like experience, and it's actually really nice. So over here I was able to catch up and also like learn more things than I would in high school.
Do any of the rest of you want to address that? Like, is there something the high school could have done to make it work for you?
I think that the staff members that were at the high school could be a bit more open and less abrasive. When students would come with issues, oftentimes I would hear a staff member sort of shut it down and downplay the issue as opposed to trying to actually solve it. Whereas here, you can tell them just about anything, and if they can do it, they will do their best to change it for you, help you find a solution, or some way to navigate or get around any given problem that you may have.
In Ruby, for you, it was just scheduling, right? Like, there's no way Ruby could do a 7 to 3 day. It's just, that didn't work in Ruby's life.
Yeah, I don't think I could even have done the 9 to 2 here. The hybrid it was the only thing that would work with my schedule.
Thank you so much, Parsa Chanrami here. Want to thank Jen and the whole team, and then all of you as alums, as the current student of the program, for being able to share your personal story and how much of an impact Sequoia has made. Something I was really curious about is, for the alums of the program, what did that support look like once you completed the program? And what is your connection to Sequoia look like, as you get further away from, like, once you've formally finished the program?
I'm actually really, really glad you asked that question. So after I had graduated, I had taken a small job at Gallon House for about 9 months just to, make some money, help with bills, help with whatever I could. But I was also actively trying to get into Job Corps to get a career. And Helen, along with several other students that were currently enrolled at that time, helped all three of us get to Job Corps. So even though I wasn't currently a student, I would come in for meetings. She would call me and let me know about updates for Job Corps, because the administrator was in contact with her and the school, but not inherently me. So it was through a third party. But every single update that she had gotten, every single meeting that they had or piece of information got pretty much directly delivered to me. Like, there were only a few minor things that got swept under the rug, but mainly because they only had to deal with the school, not the student itself. Their support is like, if you come to them with not necessarily an issue, but a request for help in any way, they will still support you. As Jen said before, if I was in an emergency and I had no gas right now, I could probably come here and ask one of the staff members for some money and then pay them back. They will help in any way, regardless of if you're a current student or if you graduated. I mean, thank you, Jen. Yeah, that's about it. Pretty much, they help a lot in any way that they can.
Yeah, if I could just jump in, excuse me. As I've gotten to know the program, it is an alternative program within the Silver Falls School District, but it's so much more than that. I mean, as you've heard, they are providing so many support services and barrier removal and whatever they can for these youth. So it really does go above and beyond just traditional alternative education. So it's just, it's fantastic. Thank you all for being here and for being vulnerable with us. It takes a lot of courage to stand up in front of a room full of people and share.
Sequoia makes us feel comfortable.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Any other questions for the students or the staff?
Questions?
No, just Brian Bettman. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
What we were thinking is we're gonna offer many tours after, not that, I mean, you'll be around, Jen and staff, all of you, so much deep appreciation to all of you. Because we're like behind, not because of anything you all did, but because of our own business. So if we could maybe around 2 or something, if folks are around, maybe have the opportunity to walk, and then we'll keep meeting. You all can hang out. I do see food.
Get some
over
food.
there.
That's mine. That's mine.
Get some food.
Right, didn't walk through the.
Anybody needs to eat?
Yes.
It's over there. Yeah, there's some spicy, and there's, so again, deep appreciation, so much to all of you, and we know that you're going to be successful and thriving and helping, us in all the ways that you can, and we just extend our thanks to you.
Yeah, well, and I think they want to extend their thanks to you, because you're looking at 4 kids who didn't think that they would graduate, and through due to the large part the Reengagement grant, they were able to do that.
Thank you.
And college, all of them. Yeah.
Thank you for my permit.
Thanks, John.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet all of you.
So,
What they're seeing is that what's in that green square, which is that camera.
Why is it not picking up?
I don't know what's going on with that.
Then
You can probably just turn that around and move the table towards the.
Get that. Let's Paul, you're gonna finish up?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You want to tell folks
Yeah.
what's happening?
Awesome. So just bringing everyone back here. We are gonna have Paul and team wrap up the update for youth grants, and then move to re-engagement. And then strategic plan update, we're gonna move to a future meeting, and there'll be some asynchronous updates from Cord. Thank you, Cord, for suggesting that adjustment so we could save time. Committee updates, and then public comment, and then close, and then optional tour at the end. So with that, passing it back to Paul.
Sounds good. I will stand in front of the screen because the owl decided to not work right now.
no.
I'll work on that in a second. Just verifying, can people hear us online? Can people hear us online? Yes. Okay, perfect. The only other update that I have is more of a plug. September 21st through the 24th-ish. YDO will be at NYEC DC Summit Days, so encouraging folks to come talk with Melissa or I if you're on the council and would like to be a part of it. It's a really cool event. We've sent who have we sent? We have sent Alex, Savannah, Andy. I know I'm forgetting others. Huh?
Not yet.
Not yet. Yoselin went. So if you have questions about it, I don't know, Andy, anything that you want to say about that event?
It's a great event. Actually, it's a good experience for the kids that go on that. So it's to meet everybody in that Washington D.C. house. And it was a great experience for them. They had exciting actually going there, and then meeting the people, and then touring what we did. So yeah, for 2 days.
We're 2 days, as Jeff said. It is a trip across the country in 3 days, but it is well worth the experience to be there on that side. And then obviously we do attend the annual summit, which happened last March, April, something like that, for NYEC as well. So I think that was the only thing on my list. Yes.
The Title 20 grant agreements.
Title 20 grant agreements. Those are just in process. Hopefully by September, we will have them all executed and out, and that's my hope for the update in September. But right now, I think we're about 50% executed in those grants, just roughly guessing. And the insurance, like always, is a piece of that. So yeah, those are currently coming forward.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you again, Paul and team and Nate on youth-led grants as well. And now we move to Bill and Cord for re-engagement data.
I just realized that for the slideshow, should I run the slides? Or okay, we do have Joy's got it. Just making sure we have the ability to put the slides up. Perfect.
Hold on for a minute, Cord.
Maybe the volume on the left side. Yeah.
Because the owl decided to go into the forest.
Yeah. It's too bright out.
It's taking a nap.
Taking a nap. The owl is taking a nap.
Doctor.
We should have known.
Give that a try. I'm gonna keep working on it.
Cord, say something. You're muted.
I'm the technical difficulty. Hello, here we go. All right. Can you hear me?
It's
still faint.
Still faint, but hold on for a minute, Cord. Of course.
While we're doing that, does anyone need any more water?
Yeah, take care of your needs. Hold on, Cord. We're still messing with the owl.
Just restarting the whole thing. So give me a sec.
Do we want him to keep going, though, Paul?
I don't think you got it this stuff.
Yeah, if you can get it, yeah, it'd be great.
Oh.
It just totally lost everything is the problem.
Oh, everything?
Yeah. So yeah, if you can help with it by all means, I am.
Looks like you do
Did it
have
come on?
some
Yeah,
power.
See it.
Hold on, Cord.
It's using it. It's not picking up the owl right now. Oh, did it just come?
This application will be cut off.
Is it?
And it looks like it's
Picking it
not
up.
picking up anything.
All right, let me go see if I can just get
It
it.
only has a surface camera.
Oh. All right, so let me go see if I can borrow a set of speakers.
But we're gonna go, Paul.
Yeah.
You got.
I'll be right back.
Certainly able to help.
Thank you, Bobby, for
Thanks, Bobby.
lighting as our IT.
Yeah, right. I usually play that secondary role everywhere I go, so.
I don't know if it's even in its position description.
I'm taking note of that for future meetings.
Yes, right.
As a sign.
Yeah, there's only one C input.
Okay,
too.
Cord, can you say something?
Yes, hello. This is Cord Bucher for the record.
Yeah, okay.
Really quiet.
It's really quiet.
Bill is probably the main presenter for this. I'm just here if I can help answer questions. Bill, do you want to try and speak and see how it is?
Bill Hansel for the record.
Bill, you're louder. Cord, you just need to speak loud.
I'll get really close. Is that better?
Bill's fine.
I'll find some earbuds with a mic and see if it helps.
Just get really close to the mic, and Cord, we're turning it over to you. And maybe Bill's, who I'm not sure who's doing most of the talking, but you guys should go.
Bill Hansel here for the record. I am a grant manager and data lead. And I will be helping to present the 23-25 biennium re-engagement data. This would typically fall to my colleague, Molly Burns, and I want to give her a credit and a big shout out for really pulling this data, putting this together, and preparing me to help deliver this presentation. So big thanks to Molly. Next slide, please. I don't know what this slide is. All right. Thank you. Yes, let's just keep rolling. Youth disconnection and reconnection. we talk about disconnection before we talk about re-engagement. So to really understand disconnection, let's take a look at the next slide. And as I begin this, we ask that you would hold questions till the end. You're free to drop them in the chat anytime. And unless it's a question of clarification or something you think is wrong, please do interrupt. So when we talk, why talk about re-engagement? And it's because more than 1 in 8 youth who began high school in the school year 2021 did not complete high school in 5 years. That's a total of nearly 6,000 youth. And this means that, and this is a cohort measure, and so this is happening every year, and it's been roughly the same for quite a few times. So what is re-engagement then? Well, re-engagement is an effort to reconnect 14 to 24-year-olds. This is how YDO defines it in terms of the re-engagement grants. So reconnect youth 14 to 24 years who have left or will leave high school before completing, with the goal of completing a diploma or GED. Youth are at the center, just like they're here in this slide. And the goal of re-engagement is to meet youth where they're at and offer services, options, and opportunities through partners and collaborative networks to accomplish the goal of completing a diploma or GED. Next slide, please. So this is a little snapshot of re-engagement over its life course here with YDO. It was launched in a 1-year cycle for the 2021. You can see 1,258 youth served, 200 diplomas and GEDs awarded, and outreach to 2,700 youth in that 1 year. For the 21-23 cycle, you can see all those numbers increased, as you would imagine, over a 2-year cycle. So 3,300 youth, 745 diplomas and GEDs, and program outreach to 7,500. For the cycle that we are currently examining, the 23-25, 4,186 youth served, 835 diplomas, and 13,100 youth outreached. When we look at the 21-23 cycle and compare it to the 23-25 biennium, there was roughly a 10% increase in total grant funds expended, and that resulted in a 26.5% increase in the number of youth enrolled into re-engagement programs and a 12% increase in completions. So for the first 2 full bienniums, we see that 10% increase in funds seemed to have a positive impact. Next slide, please. Again, specifically diving into the 23-25 re-engagement opportunity grants. Next slide, please. 31 were awarded. There were 5 re-engagement collaborative grants, which focus more on system development. And here's that $8.5 million spent. This is slightly different than awarded. So we're actually looking at the number of dollars spent by our re-engagement programs. Next slide, please. In the 2-year cycle, 4,186 youth were served, 835 diplomas and GEDs earned, and program outreach to over 13,000 youth. I want to again draw your attention to something we covered earlier on when we were looking at the disconnection. So these are youth, that disconnection came from a 5-year cohort, and this is traditionally then, these are the hardest youth to reach. So anyway, I just wanted to stress that as you see some of these numbers, these are likely youth that would otherwise not complete and are not in front of the schools, not attending. So let's keep moving. Let's dive in and look at the characteristics of youth. I'll draw your attention because sometimes calculations are made at different points in time. And so these characteristics, unless otherwise stated, will be at the start of program participation within the 23-25 biennium. Next slide, please. This chart shows the age breakdown at start date. This is actually a pretty cool pie chart because if you look at it, it's represents quarters. So 17-year-olds represent about 25%, 16-year-olds represent 25%, 14 and 15-year-olds combined, another 25%, and then our 18 through 24-year-olds, the other 25%. And again, these are calculated by their date of birth at start. Next slide, please. Here is our gender breakdown, and this, as will all of the report outs on race, ethnicity, and gender, we're conforming to ODE's reporting, which is ultimately the federal requirements. So what we see here is about 51% of our male or of the youth served were males, 46% female, 2% non-binary, and about 1% not reported. I will make a note here that in our data collection, we have other columns, optional gender columns, which allow for a much more diverse gender classification. And for the sake, like I say, of conforming to ODE standards, those were categorized within the three that they roll up into. There will be other data that we're able to produce that shows more of what would be within the some of the non-binary representation. Sometimes, for example, a male or female could also identify as queer, which would be picked up in the gender optional column, but not reported here. If it's one or the other, they were classified with the required reporting process. So that's a little bit of the breakdown of gender. Next slide, please. Here is the race and ethnicity, again, standardized to ODE. The big difference here is that aside from Hispanic Latino, ODE classifies anybody that has two or more races as multiracial. And again, we collect more robust data than that and can speak more to the actual multiracial breakdowns, but then when they're rolled up for federal reporting, they're collapsed into that multiracial category. What we see here is approximately 50% of the youth served were white. American, Indian, Alaska Native come in at 4%, Asian at 1%, Black African American at 9%, Hispanic Latino at 27%. The multiracial category is at 7%. And then Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders 2%, and unknown is 1%. When we compare this to the population, the cohort population size, We actually have, for example, 2% of Black African Americans comprise 2% of that cohort or a year's population. In our population, they're 9%. When we look at a calculation of the non-completer rate, the Black African American students represent 20%. So what that tells me in this interpretation is that we're on track in serving, and much the same way, we actually serve less white youth than are represented in the general population. And every one of these categories is either the same or more than their general population representation, which is an indicator of meeting the needs of the youth, again, where they're at. Next slide, please. This is a distribution of participants by school disconnection at start date. So again, a snapshot of when they started programming. And this is pretty incredible. 52% of the youth served were reported to be out of school at the time of engagement. And that coupled with a history of irregular attendance or a recent return from a drop, and a drop is defined as 10 days of continuous absence, which then means 85% of the youth being served at start had either out of school or were having attendance issues. So again, very strong indicator that the population that we're hoping to reach is being reached. And next slide, please. Here are a couple quotes from youth from a recent re-engagement convening. And these are pretty much direct quotes. Why did you leave K-12? In school, I had to be working and I had to be in school, I had to be working and I had to be in school. School didn't have any leniency. The support teachers gave wasn't enough. I had 8 classes, chores, of course, at home, and learning disabilities. And to the question, why did you join re-engagement? Leniency and no bullying policy, support for learning disabilities, and being transgender. So these were a couple things that direct quotes that were shared at a recent convening. Next slide, please. When we then look at our data and of all the youth that reported, when they were asked why did they disengage, this is listed by percentage from top to bottom, but also broken down. So the top 3 categories were actually education related, with 52% saying that it was because they had fallen too far behind or credit deficiencies. The next highest was 37% regarding the school social environment, so sense of belonging. And then 34% they felt was a lack of academic support. Then we come into life factors, so home life, student health, disciplinary, or traumatic life events. And so I think even in the young people that we heard speak just minutes ago, some of these are reflected in their comments to us as well. Next slide, please. So now the question is, why did you re-engage? It didn't fall into the same 2 categories. And also something about this is that this is not unduplicated. Youth were allowed to pick multiple responses to this question. And so these don't represent a direct one answer to one youth, but they do represent what was chosen most often. And again, education related was the top category. 47% wanted, liked having a different option or an alternative education setting. I think this speaks to, again, to that we all know what the definition of insanity is, which is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And so when the only option is to just give it another try at the same place, that's really, again, what Reengagement is hoping to impact. And that is to insert and create options and opportunities. And we see it reflected here. Why did they reengage? They wanted a different education setting. 47%, so it's a tie up there, wanted to earn the diploma or GED. 33% wanted to get their credits back. The next highest category, broad category, was an individualized approach, so that meeting them where they're at was important. Offering individualized services and supports and academic and career coaching. And then finally, an important one to see here is that when mental health supports were offered as part of the wraparound services, that was attractive. That is something youth felt was important and allowed them to feel comfortable with re-engaging. Next slide, please. This is basically just those two slides now put together so you can see kind of in the education, why they disengaged and why they re-engaged are closely related, but very much tied to individualized alternate options that they could take advantage of. Next slide, please. So now we're going to focus on youth characteristics at the end of program participation. An important caveat here is that youth can be involved with multiple programs. So a program that focuses primarily on outreach and engagement may contact them, get them, situated, get an individualized plan, and then help them transition to whatever the best fit would be. And so that would be their second program. So in this, what this is to say is it's not necessarily an unduplicated count when we just look at what happened at the end of a program. But here, the distribution of participants by academic progress. And so again, this is at the end of a program participation. 42% made academic progress, and 20% earned a credential. Unknown is 8%, and at 30%, no progress was reported. Progress is defined as earning a high school credential, passing an official GED exam, or completing a diploma or GED during re-engagement. So I want to clarify that, because it's not like a box was there that said they didn't do anything or checked it. So this is more no progress reported was kind of a de facto measure when progress wasn't reported in other categories. The made academic progress is a composite measure of several things that would indicate that, including high school credits earned, total number of GED exams passed, and type of credential earned and date earned. Let's look at the next slide. Most frequent end statuses of participants who did not complete a diploma or GED. So when we look at the end statuses for youth that participated in a re-engagement program but did not complete a diploma or GED, we find that most exited to secondary education, which is still an indicator of re-engagement and involvement. And it just means that they have yet to earn their diploma or GED. The next most frequent status was still active in a re-engagement program, followed by an unknown status, not working and not in school, and then finally the program is still attempting to re-engage or engage this student or youth. I think that what's important to see, again, to note here is this is at the end of their participation. So it may have been the end of the year in which they are going to continue into another biennium. I see Cord has a question.
Thanks, Bill. This is Cord Bucher. I just wanted to jump in because I think something to note that this data is getting at is that when we talk about the youth who complete a diploma or GED within their re-engagement program, the fact that it's not every youth in re-engagement is to be expected. Lots of young people who are served by these programs are 14, 15 years old. There's a lot of different reasons that youth come to re-engagement, and in many cases, returning to the school that they were in prior to coming to the re-engagement program, better equipped to succeed there is a totally positive outcome. And this is one of the things we've been working on trying to better understand is what are some of the outcomes besides completing your diploma and GED that we can look at as positive from participating in the program, even staying engaged, staying involved, progressing, however you might be. Many youth come to re-engagement programs not right on the cusp of finishing high school. Even looking at one program or another, some are serving a lot of youth who are younger, who are in the middle of their high school career. Other programs might be serving more youth who are trying to get a GED, would maybe be close to graduation. So there's just a lot of variety, and I think it's why it's complex to sort of try to measure success within this. So I appreciated the team kind of working on really understanding where youth are at, even if it's not that they've completed the program. Like, there are a lot of good things that can still be happening. So I just wanted to jump in and just sort of emphasize that. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Cord. And it's a great segue to our next slide as well. And we're flipping it here and now looking at the exact same thing, except for the youth who did complete. And so now the question is being answered. What was their status of the youth who did complete a high school diploma or GED? We see the top category, but not by much, is the exit to work, so employment, followed closely by exit to post-secondary education or training. We see the status unknown or not reported, and finally, active in the re-engagement program's follow-up services. To Cord's point, some of these things like status unknown or not reported goes back to what I mentioned at the very beginning. When we think of that, the target population are youth who are disengaged from school, so not even in a physical school building. In my mind, something would be wrong if we didn't see that status unknown or not reported, or evidence of the challenge serving these youth, right? I would be suspicious if there wasn't some indicator that lets us know that we are in fact reaching and trying to reach the hardest to reach and those with the greatest need. So let's keep going and talk about the GED and diploma earners. Next slide, please. So of that group that earned a diploma or GED by age at start date, you can see here the orange represents the share of non-completers in that age group, and the blue represents the share of completers. And what we see here, if we kind of exclude the youngest category, 16% of 16-year-olds, 33% of 17-year-olds, and 29% of the 18 to 24 years old at start, that again, that's their ages at start, completed during the 2-year grant cycle. That totals to 31% of all the youth age 17 to 24 at start completed a GED or diploma. And I think that's a really strong indicator of the direction our re-engagement programs and system is heading. Yeah, we'll just keep moving. There's some more interesting tidbits here. But this is now earned credential by time out of school. Again, just another powerful look at the youth we're serving, because when we total these youth, we're seeing 250 youth earned a credential that had irregular attendance. 221 youth earned a credential after being out of school for for less than a year, and 171 earned a diploma after being out of school more than a year. So when you combine these top two categories, it equals 319 credential earners began as an out of school status, or 47%. And then 250 credential earners also had irregular or inconsistent attendance. So that's 77% earning a high school of the credential earners had, significant implications with their school attendance and time out of school. Next slide, please. So here's the distribution of the earned diplomas and GEDs by age at credential. And the shape of this graph here would be the curve. You can see, and this is a common curve that we'll see throughout, but starting at 16-year-old, it climbs steadily up to 18 years old, and then starts a pretty steep decline up until 24-year-olds. So what this slide is telling us is that by far the age of most diploma and GED earners are 17, 18 years old, and then followed by 19-year-olds, and then kind of a diminishing line until you hit the 24-year-olds. And I think this indicates just the general population or age range of youth that are actually served by ODE, for example. That curve reflects that would look the same in ODE data just based on age. Next slide, please. Here we see GED earners specifically, and you can see, I believe, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have to be about 16 years old to even earn a diploma. So, I'm sorry, a GED. And so this now shows us, again, of just the GED earners, we are seeing 16-year-olds earn it. Again, this is just another if you flip that this chart on its side, you would see that same exact curve that we just saw in the last slide. So 16 climbs to 17, 18, and then the diminishing return as they get older. Next slide, please. One of the mandates, or part of the re-engagement grants, is sustaining and building a statewide system. So let's take a look at some data relating to that. This slide, I think, is also really fun and data if you're a data nerd, you'll like it. But the takeaway here is that youth are identified, contact, and enroll in re-engagement services throughout the grant cycle. So what's happening is that this is evidence of a continuous process throughout the year, but strongly tied to the school calendar. You can see that the peaks in these enrollments coincide in the fall of each year, specifically September, which is also when programs may be doing their initial outreach and launch, but also shows that even although lower, it's still happening June and July during the summer. Cord, I'll fire it over to you.
Thanks, Bill. I've been alerted from within the room that we'll have to wrap this presentation up pretty shortly, so we can do our final bits and then get folks the tour of the facility. I know there's one more slide here if you want to quickly show that, and then move to Q&A.
You bet. You
Thanks,
bet. Final slide. Here's a distribution of diplomas and GEDs earned by quarter. So the previous slide showed enrollment. This one is showing when the youth complete their high school diploma or GED throughout the grant. Year one totals, 376 credentials were earned. In year two, 459 credentials were earned. The vast majority of those credentials coincide with the end of the school year as well. That's it. Let's take some questions.
And looking beyond that, how many young people are earning credentialing or have a clear next step into the workforce and so forth. So thank you for continuing to iterate and update the presentation. Any questions briefly from the council or comments? Yeah.
Zan Ogier speaking. I was curious, there was a breakdown in the packet that we received of the types of grantees that were funded, school districts versus community-based organizations, et cetera. And I was wondering if in the data there was one type of organization that was more effective than others in terms of graduation or completion, or and how much learning is going on across these different organizations about what works. Two questions.
Sorry, I was answering it. I don't know if Bill or Court, can you address one of those?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Bill Hansel for the record. Thank you, Zan. One of the things that we see, sorry, I thought I heard some. One of the things that we see is that it's at this stage, it's tough to make comparisons because there is such uniqueness across populations of youth being served. So, for example, one program may be delivering these services to youth that are in residential care. Another program may be serving younger kids that, or the lower end of the age spectrum, which doesn't even, they aren't even, able to the freshmen, sophomores, they don't graduate this biennium. That will be picked up next biennium. But in general, what we're seeing is that the one-on-one relationship, the customization, and the outreach are all very important components of successful re-engagement programs. And the about 50%, I think, I'm looking for the slide or the data. Yeah, my eye, I can't actually focus on it.
Well, I have it up. I can share my screen really quickly if I'm able to.
Yeah, this is Brian Detman, just for the record, you guys have about 2 minutes and then we're gonna move fast through committees and public comment. So Court, if you want to just take this, and I'll, as you're pulling it up, I'll just say, yeah, my thanks to the team. Noodle on this, you have a packet. If you want to email us questions, we can also come back in September and have deeper discussion. So Court.
Yeah, Bill, was this what you were looking for? The breakdown
Yes,
of
thank you.
institution types? Yes, great.
And this is just to show what Zan was talking about. And I've lost track of what the second question was or part.
About the learning across organizations, the collaboration component.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so I think this might be, or one of the important features of the re-engagement opportunity grants is a requirement for them to participate in regional convenings. These occur with regularity across the biennial cycle and are specifically delivered in regional locations across the state that also are hosted. And, it's almost like our council meetings in terms of different hosting sites. And these are really communities of practice that allow grantees to come together to share, what works, to ask questions of each other. It's really neat to see a program be able to, one program be able to address issues that another program is currently experiencing because they weathered or have had dealt with that. So I don't have a way necessarily to quantify that for you, but in terms of the reports back, I know a lot of our grantees really benefit, express that they benefit and look forward to those convenings.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Really appreciate the presentation. So if you have any questions, please email Bill or Cord directly. And it sounds like we'll continue the conversation potentially in September. All right, moving on to committees. Any brief committee updates from strategy or the youth committee? I feel like the youth committee, you provided your update on youth-led grant meeting. Okay. All right. Cord, just 1 or 2 minutes.
Sure. This is Cord Bucher. So I'll just share that something the strategy committee has been working on is a messaging tool. This is something that came up in the November retreat last year. Something to really help staff, council members, and others just succinctly describe who we are and what we do. I had a couple of slides on it, but I don't think I can do it justice in 1 or 2 minutes. So it's something that I'll share what we've developed so far, along with the strategic plan update, since it is tied to the strategic plan. But I appreciate that the committee's given some really helpful input and feedback on that messaging tool. And I think in November at the retreat, one of the things we plan to do is to spend some time with this, just kind of training and practicing, as a way for us to just consistently and effectively tell folks about Youth Development Oregon. So more to come on that. We'll send the asynchronous update, including that fairly soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cord, and thank you, Nate and Daniela, for co-chairing that committee. Next, we're moving to public comment. So I'm going to check in with Melissa to see if we have anyone signed up for public comment. And
Melissa Gallardo, for the record, I have not heard from anyone that they have any public comment.
Okay, and I don't see anybody in the room that's here wishing to express public comment. Okay, thank you. All right, so now we just kind of do our final rounding out the meeting and next steps. And again, really appreciate folks being here today, and hopefully some folks can stay for the tour at the very end. So, is it me?
No,
you and I?
Yeah, you and I.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, again, deep thanks. You see, we made up time. We got 7 minutes. We somehow do it. Apologies that we didn't get you more on strategic plan, but we can come back to that. Again, Brian Detman for the record. The things that I heard that we want to have, like, there's opportunity for kind of well, I think we dealt with the river follow-up stuff, actually. It's
We did vote.
Beth made we made a vote, we made a phone call. We know, obviously, we're continuing to do the work we need to do around the compliance audit and our specific. Like we do need to deliver a letter to a response back to OJDDP. So Anya and I and others are working on that. So we'll keep you informed as we continue our work with the Clackamas County Court. The appreciation on the data piece. I know we kind of jumped through that pretty quickly, but we, you know, and Bill said this a few different times, or at least a couple of different times. You had the real life examples right in front of you of the power and impact of re-engagement dollars at work in here in Silverton and through this the Sequoia Falls Academy. And then after you saw real life people telling their own stories, we had the data. And so we thought that could kind of work well together. Again, probably went through it a little faster than maybe we had hoped. And so if you have questions that are that come up, don't hesitate to reach out and ask. But I felt like the things we heard and saw from our panelists were reflected in many ways in the data. So it just felt like a really powerful combination. We know that we've going to have some more strategic plan information to share. We've got our September meeting that I said already will be in the Dows. We have a November retreat. Still working on a location for that, I'm pretty sure, Melissa. And then we have our December meeting that's after the November retreat on the 10th. So stay tuned for details on that. That we do the December and March meetings in Salem at the Public Services Building. So we'll be there for those who want to show in person, and we'll have a hybrid option for those who want to be online or need to be online. So I don't know, that feels like the wrap up for me. Arsa, I'm turning it back to you.
Okay. Again, thank you for being here in person. Thank you for folks joining online. Want to appreciate Brian, Melissa, and the whole team for presentations, organizing the day, getting food ordered, and so forth. Really appreciate being able to meet on site and meet directly with our grantees to see, again, like for full circle impact of our grant making work. And looking forward to seeing all of you in the Dalles coming up in September.
One thing again, thanks Wendy for showing up from the LFO, and Rachel Moser showed up here at the end. Got to hear Rachel's with the governor's office, our policy advisor. So thanks for coming, Rachel. So just again, appreciation there. And I'll say it again to Bill and Cord and Molly, who wasn't able to do the presentation. The data collection and trying to interpret and give you some takeaways is something we've worked on over the last few years. To say, we asked our grantees for lots of information, and we want to ask them for information that then we can do something with, like not just to have it sit in a database somewhere. So our commitment is to ask questions that have relevance to you all and to this broader group of stakeholders who may be interested in our work, legislators, etc. So that's why we ask the questions, so we can share it with you, and you can ask us difficult questions, and then we can go back and refine and figure out what we should do better. But we just don't want to ask our grantees, right, unnecessary for information that we're not going to use. So really appreciate your work of the team and trying to get to relevance and impact, and again, you give us feedback as to if you need more or different, maybe not more, but if it's more than we can figure out with me, maybe we should do less of. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. And for the record, Parsa Chan, I'm going to officially close out our meeting. So I'm going to gavel us out at 1:59 p.m. on June 11th. I was watching.